Chapter 341. Striking the Rotating Pill. Boom! 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 Yichen's heart was racing. After a long while, Yichen finally calmed his excited mind, settling down from the power of the Taiyuan chapter. The path must be taken one step at a time. No matter how powerful the Taiyuan chapter is, only when it is fully cultivated will it be fundamental. The Taiyuan chapter states that cultivating internal and external skills is immensely difficult and powerful alike. Whether it is cultivating the 999 rotating pills of the Extreme Realm Dispersion, or the unified Taiyuan Divine Pill of Extreme Realm Fusion, both are extremely challenging. And to cultivate the 5 great divine arts, to enhance their power, just acquiring treasures like Heaven and Earth True Fire, Heaven and Earth True Water requires countless opportunities and fortune. Not to mention cultivating all 5 divine arts to perfection. All of this requires even more diligent cultivation from me. Whether it's internal or external skills, everything starts with the rotating pill. Now, my most important task is to break through to the rotating pill realm. In the internal skill cultivation of the Taiyuan chapter, the first step is to cultivate the rotating pill. The external skills 5 great divine arts of the Taiyuan chapter also require the descent of the 5 void heaven laws in the rotating pill realm. Therefore, if Yichen wants to cultivate the Taiyuan chapter, the key is to enter the rotating pill realm from the spirit sea realm. With this in mind, Yichen reviewed the Taiyuan chapter's cultivation methods 3 more times in the 3rd layer of the Starlight Tower, then directly used the method described in the chapter to harness the starry fog within the 3rd layer of the tower, and with a focused mind, carried the starry fog with him as he left the Starlight Tower and returned to his physical body. Then, as the starry fog drifted above Yichen's energy sea and the 5 drops of divine blood fell into the primordial true liquid within the energy sea, Yichen began the final preparation to break through to the rotating pill realm. Ordinary people take about half a day to break through from the late spirit sea realm to the rotating pill realm, regardless of success or failure. But, just as Zhang Yao's Phoenix clan bloodline took an exceptionally long time to break through to the rotating pill realm, Yichen's breakthrough was also entirely different from ordinary people. One must know that the energy within Yichen's energy sea is not ordinary qi or spiritual liquid, but the miraculous primordial true liquid produced by cultivating the primordial chapter. This primordial true liquid even granted Yichen the strength to suppress late-stage rotating pill powerhouses. Now, to solidify this primordial true liquid into rotating pills and to invoke the 5 divine blood within the true liquid, as well as the starry fog above, was certainly not a simple matter of breaking through to the rotating pill. After exiting the Starlight Tower, Yichen fully immersed himself in the final preparations for breaking through to the rotating pill realm. This preparation took another 9 days. During these 9 days, 2 major events happened. The first event was on the 4th day after Yichen came out of the Starlight Tower, which was also the 13th day that Yichen and Zhang Yao were breaking through their realms in the Void Heaven Sword Valley. Zhang Yao, who had been cultivating not far from Yichen, finally showed signs of change from her calm state and began her true assault on the rotating pill realm. When Zhang Yao began her breakthrough, Mu Qingqing, who had been waiting outside the Void Heaven Sword Valley, was extremely excited, and unknown to many, atop the highest reaches of immeasurable mountain, within the Void Heaven, the strongest late-stage Heavenly Saint Realm powerhouse, Heavenly Saint Yuan Li watched Zhang Yao with great solemnity and anticipation. After spending most of the day, Zhang Yao successfully absorbed all of the 1.3 billion strands of Void Heaven Sword Qi surrounding her body and invoked all 5 of the Void Heaven laws, solidifying her perfectly exquisite 5 apertures rotating pill. The moment Zhang Yao formed the 5 apertures rotating pill, the entire void was permeated with the essence of heaven and earth laws, and above the slowly rotating 5 apertures rotating pill, surged inexplicably mesmerizing ice-blue divine patterns. Even for the 9 days, the entire sky roared with thunder, and purple lightning flashed, manifesting spectacular heavenly phenomena. Such heavenly phenomena not only thrilled Mu Qingqing and Heavenly Saint Yuan Li, but also drew the attention of countless martial artists watching the Hidden Dragon Rankings competition on a nearby mountain peak. Even the real competition of the Hidden Dragon Rankings paused momentarily, as the participants looked towards the peak of Immeasurable Mountain and the Void Heaven Sword Valley. and upon witnessing the 5 apertures rotating pill formed by Zhang Yao within the void, countless martial artists were stunned. The 5 apertures rotating pill. That is the most perfect rotating pill that can be achieved in the rotating pill realm, where all 5 elements of the void heaven laws, metal, wood, water, fire, earth, are successfully fused into the rotating pill. One must know that many martial artists in the late stages of the Spirit Sea realm can't even integrate one void heaven law when breaking through to the rotating pill realm, often resulting in a failed attempt and becoming half-step rotating pill warriors. This shows how difficult it is to break through to the rotating pill realm. Now, not only had Zhang Yao successfully risen to the rotating pill realm, but she had also formed the most perfect 5 apertures rotating pill, astonishing countless people. This was even the first time many martial artists had witnessed a 5 apertures rotating pill. The rotating pill realm powerhouses were shocked, and among the heavens and earth, those in the heavenly saint realm were equally startled. The heavenly saints were shocked not only by the extremely rare formation of the 5 apertures rotating pill, but also because many early-stage heavenly saint realm powerhouses actually felt a dangerous sensation emanating from Zhang Yao's 5 apertures rotating pill. Zhang Yao actually made the early-stage heavenly saint realm powerhouses feel threatened. Considering the rumors that Zhang Yao had already possessed unmatched strength at the rotating pill during the late Spirit Sea realm and now, having successfully stepped into the rotating pill realm, those early-stage heavenly saint realm powerhouses even had a premonition that Zhang Yao might very well be capable of battling them, and possibly even capable of injuring them all. This, of course, shocked the early-stage heavenly saint realm powerhouses greatly. In addition to Zhang Yao's successful breakthrough into the rotating pill realm being the first major event, the second major event was that 3 days after Zhang Yao completed her breakthrough, on the 16th day of Yi Chen's cultivation, the second Grand Assembly of Immeasurable Mountain, the Hidden Dragon List Great Contest, finally concluded. Since Yi Chen was in cultivation and did not participate in the Hidden Dragon List Great Contest, and Zhang Yao, after completing her realm breakthrough, chose to stay by Yi Chen's side and also ignored the contest, 3 other powerhouses ultimately emerged victorious from the Hidden Dragon List Great Contest. Among these 3 powerhouses, 2 were martial artists from the Central Domain, and the other was surprisingly Lu Qingmei from the Eastern Polar Scatter Isles, who had just broken through to the early stage of the rotating pill realm. Lu Qingmei, with her early stage of the rotating pill realm, managed to snatch the second ranking in the Hidden Dragon List Great Contest, filled with late-stage rotating pill realm powerhouses, shocking countless martial artists. Moreover, during the contest, the skill used by Lu Qingmei also baffled many martial artists, and quite a few of them even sensed from Lu Qingmei's skill the same sensation of the divine arts that Zhang Yao once used to defeat 3 mighty late-stage rotating pill adversaries with a single move. Although some perspicacious heavenly saints recognized that it wasn't divine arts but a holy art that was exceedingly close to divine arts, this was already enough to make many people see Lu Qingmei in a new light. After all, mastering a holy art in the early phase of the rotating pill realm was something very few among the rotating pill realm powerhouses could achieve. When the 3 champions of the Hidden Dragon List Great Contest were decided, each of them having secured the qualification to join the Heavenly Sacred Palace, both grand assemblies of Immeasurable Mountain had come to a complete end. However, almost the majority of the martial artists had not left. Because, atop Immeasurable Peak, there was an important matter everyone wanted to wait and see the outcome of. That was Yi Chen's cultivation. The Hidden Dragon List Great Contest had concluded after Lu Qingmei. Zhang Yao had also completed her breakthrough into the rotating pill realm, and now, in the entire Void Heaven Sword Valley, only Yi Chen was left to finish his cultivation. Yi Chen had been cultivating inside the Void Heaven Sword Valley for a full 16 days without completing his cultivation, which naturally made countless people extremely curious about what formidable skill Yi Chen was cultivating. Countless spectators of the Hidden Dragon List Great Contest, numerous participants of the contest, the 3 who had just claimed the top spots, the martial artists from the Southern Territory who greatly admired Yi Chen, the 3 Sure family brothers, the Drunken Sword Hermit, and people from the 10 great demon sects of the Western Wilderness, all gathered again in the midst of Immeasurable Peak. Add to that Mu Qingqing, who had always been guarding outside the Void Heaven Sword Valley, Zhang Yao, who had completed her cultivation and was waiting for Yi Chen outside, and the powerful heavenly saints. Numerous figures all stood in the void on the summit of Immeasurable Peak. looking towards the void heaven sword valley. Everyone was waiting for Yi Chen's cultivation to be completed. This waiting dragged on for another 2 days. 5 days after Zhang Yao completed her cultivation, 2 days after the Hidden Dragon List Great Contest ended, on the 18th day since Yi Chen began his cultivation in the Void Heaven Sword Valley, 9 days after receiving the Taiyuan chapter, the previously still and seated Yi Chen finally opened his eyes from his meditative state. The moment Yi Chen opened his eyes, the long undisturbed void heaven sword chi around him surged and started rolling into his body again. At the same time, within the expanse of void heaven, continuous rumbles of void heavenly true thunder could be heard, and above the 9th heaven, the overwhelming auras of the 5 major void heaven laws began to converge, gradually enshrouding the entire sky above the void heaven sword valley. Seeing this spectacle, everyone waiting outside the void heaven sword valley became excited, because this spectacle was unmistakably the scene of a cultivator making a breakthrough into the rotating pill realm. Yi Chen is starting his breakthrough into the rotating pill realm. In the Southern Territory martial artists area, the 3 Sure family brothers were so thrilled that they were about to leap up. The 3 brothers knew very well that Yi Chen had once overwhelmed the late-stage rotating pill powerhouses during the Mid-Spirit Sea realm, and if Yi Chen was successful in his breakthrough into the rotating pill realm, with Zhang Yao who had already succeeded in her breakthrough, the Southern Territory would have birthed 2 astonishing figures. Perhaps, the 2 individuals who might change the standoff between the Southern Territory and the Western Wilderness, even altering the course of the future war between the Southern Territory and the Western Wilderness, would be Yi Chen and Zhang Yao. Seeing Yi Chen's breakthrough into the rotating pill realm, the 3 Sure family brothers were naturally over the moon. Not just them, but all martial artists in the entire Southern Territory were excited. On the other hand, in the crowd from the 10 great demon sects of the Western Wilderness, many had grave expressions on their faces. They didn't dare to imagine just how powerful Yi Chen would become once he truly completed his breakthrough into the rotating pill realm after 18 whole days of preparation. There were even quite a few disciples of the demon sects secretly hoping in their hearts that Yi Chen's realm breakthrough would fail. Chapter 342. Divine Light Shines, Rotating Pill Forms. Those disciples from the demon sects harbored ill intentions, but many warriors from the central region, as well as those deeply respectful of Yi Chen's formidable strength, were filled with anticipation for Yi Chen's successful breakthrough to the rotating pill realm. Yi Chen will definitely be able to condense a rotating pill. Perhaps, he could even perfect it like Zhang Yao, creating the most flawless 5 apertures rotating pill. Luo Lai, who had just achieved 3rd place in the Hidden Dragon ranking, from the Great Xia dynasty of the Central region, stared at Yi Chen in the Void Heaven Sword Valley, his breathing tight, and the 1st place winner of the Hidden Dragon ranking, from the Great Qian dynasty of the Central region, the only invincible rotating pill powerhouse who participated in the Hidden Dragon ranking competition, Xiao Chen, was also looking at Yi Chen with admiration flickering in his eyes. Yi Chen, when he was in the Spirit Sea realm, had a strength comparable to mine. Perhaps if he and Zhang Yao were to participate in the Hidden Dragon ranking, I would not have gotten 1st place. I'm really looking forward to seeing just how much his strength will have increased after completing his breakthrough to the rotating pill realm. It is very possible that by then, I will be far from his match. Luo Lai and Xiao Chen were both filled with anticipation for Yi Chen's breakthrough to the rotating pill realm, and so were sword cultivators like Murong Qiqi who had fought against Yi Chen, as well as Mu Qingqing and others who had been waiting outside the Void Heaven Sword Valley, and Lu Qingmei, who finished 2nd in the Hidden Dragon ranking. Even several celestials from the Heavenly Sacred Palace, including Elder Shao, Supreme Elder from the 1st Sanctuary of the Heavenly Sacred Palace, were full of confidence in Yi Chen's successful breakthrough to the rotating pill realm. The one who was most concerned about Yi Chen was Zhang Yao. At this moment, the young girl's small fists were clenched tightly, and her beautiful eyes were unblinkingly fixated on Yi Chen. Under Zhang Yao's concerned gaze, amid the expectations of countless warriors, and even as the disciples of the Western Desolation's 10 great demon sects secretly cursed for Yi Chen's realm breakthrough to fail, Yi Chen inside the Void Heaven Sword Valley raised his hands and formed a seal in front of his chest. In an instant, amidst the rolling thunder from the heavens, All 5 of the great heavenly laws that enveloped the heavens and earth began to surge tumultuously towards the space above Yi Chen's head. At the same time, the void heaven sword chi outside Yi Chen's body was also being absorbed tumultuously. All of it sucked into Yi Chen without a drop wasted. All 19 billion strands of void heaven sword chi were drawn into Yi Chen's body. Clearly, Yi Chen was intent on making a single push, using the vast sword chi transformed into true chi to break through to the rotating pill. 19 billion strands of void heaven sword chi. This amount even exceeded that of many late-stage rotating pill practitioners when they were making a breakthrough to the celestial realm. Yi Chen had drawn all the void heaven sword chi into his body, without a trace of leakage or waste, and as he finished absorbing the sword chi, a cloud of true chi began to surge once again inside the void heaven sword valley. Clearly, these clouds of true chi were drawn by Yi Chen's realm breakthrough. The amount of true chi activated by Yi Chen's realm breakthrough was simply astonishing. By this time, countless warriors no longer regarded Yi Chen as merely breaking through from the spirit sea to the rotating pill. They believed he was instead advancing from the rotating pill to the celestial realm. That's too terrifying. How could he refine so much true chi? With such an amount of true chi, if all refined, he could easily defeat a late-stage rotating pill practitioner just with the sheer quantity of true chi. If Yi Chen also successfully refines the 5 apertures rotating pill and possesses the power of the 5 great heavenly laws, then Yi Chen's combat strength is simply unimaginable. Outside the void heaven sword valley, countless warriors began screaming. Seeing the horrifying amount of true chi that Yi Chen had drawn into his body, and the presence of the 5 great heavenly laws above Yi Chen's head, the disciples of the 10 great demon sects of the Western Desolation felt their minds thudding loudly. These disciples of the demon sects had a premonition that their adversary, the 13 nations of the southern lands, would likely produce an extraordinary figure. Even if they cursed Yi Chen to fail, they could not stop the steps of Yi Chen's transformation. Thinking this, the disciples of the 10 great demon sects of the Western Desolation couldn't help but start contemplating countermeasures. With screams and tremors outside the void heaven sword valley, inside, Yi Chen had absorbed all the true chi into his body and had now reached the critical moment of his breakthrough to the rotating pill realm. The first step in breaking through to a rotating pill was to transform the liquid true chi within the chi sea into the initial solid-state rotating pill, and the second step was to attract the 5 great heavenly laws to merge into the initial rotating pill, turning it into a true rotating pill. After all the true chi had been absorbed into his body, the primordial true liquid in Yi Chen's chi sea had reached its ultimate fullness, its ultimate boiling point. At this time, if it were still the chi sea, it would no longer be capable of containing any more true chi. To further increase the amount of true chi, all of this liquid true chi would have to undergo a transformation. This transformation is the metamorphosis of the rotating pill. Boom! 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 Sensing that his chi sea had reached its ultimate fullness, Yi Chen pinched the true chi seal in his heart, and the true chi spiritual liquid within his entire chi sea began to surge crazily toward the top of the chi sea. As it surged upwards, the endless black spiritual liquid began to boil tumultuously, colliding and fusing together incessantly. In the midst of this collision and fusion, a black initial rotating pill slowly formed. Initially the size of a date pit, when half of the endless spiritual liquid had fused, the initial rotating pill grew to the size of a walnut. Once all of the spiritual liquid had merged into this initial rotating pill, it grew to the size of a fist. A fist-sized initial rotating pill, capable of merging with a true chi spiritual liquid vast as the ocean itself, was nothing short of miraculous. Yi Chen could sense that there were undoubtedly space laws hidden within this initial rotating pill, enabling it to accumulate so much true chi into a solid rotating pill. Typically, a late-stage spirit sea practitioner would have an initial rotating pill the size of a walnut upon breaking through. However, Yi Chen's initial rotating pill was several times larger than those common pills. If one also considered the space laws within it, the power of the true rotating pill would be countless times greater than that of the ordinary ones. What was even more miraculous was that this was not an ordinary rotating pill. This black rotating pill had 5 extraordinary patterns engraved upon it. These 5 extraordinary patterns depicted the aspects of the azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, black tortoise, and the Chilean divine beasts, respectively. These 5 great divine beasts aspects were the incredible transformation that occurred when the 5 great divine bloods were dripped into the true Qi spiritual fluid. At the moment when the rotating pill, engraved with the 5 divine beast patterns, fully formed, a strange rotating pill spiritual pattern simultaneously emerged on Yichen's forehead. This rotating pill spiritual pattern was precisely the law formula for summoning the rotating pill in and out of the Qi Sea. After the appearance of the rotating pill spiritual pattern, with a thought from Yichen, the entire pattern flashed, and the nascent rotating pill that had formed in the Qi Sea burst forth from the pattern and flew above Yichen's head, spinning around swiftly. The nascent rotating pill has come out. Yichen has successfully nurtured the nascent rotating pill. Upon seeing Yichen's rotating pill spiritual pattern flash, and the nascent rotating pill fly to the area above his head, countless martial artists excitedly screamed. The formation of the nascent rotating pill signified that Yichen's first step towards breaking through to the rotating pill realm was completely finished. The only thing left was to merge the nascent rotating pill with the 5 great void heaven laws. When more people saw the nascent rotating pill above Yichen's head, they became even more astonished. Yichen's nascent rotating pill is actually such an extraordinary black rotating pill, heavens. His nascent rotating pill is much bigger than a normal one, and the patterns on his nascent rotating pill look like the patterns of mythical beasts. These patterns are as mystical as those divine patterns on Jiang Yao's rotating pill from earlier. 5 patterns. Could they correspond to the 5 great void heaven laws? While many people were astonished and speculating, Yichen, having completed his nascent rotating pill, directly launched into the second step, merging with the 5 great void heaven laws. Boom! 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 Yichen pinched his fingers to form a law formula, and the nascent rotating pill above his head shot straight toward the 5 great void heaven laws aura above. Simultaneously, Yichen formed another law formula with his hands. The 5 law sword seeds he had cultivated from the second level of the Biming secret tome transformed into 5 beams of sword light, encircling the nascent rotating pill. Together with the pill, they shot towards the aura of the 5 great void heaven laws. The Biming secret tome stated that these 5 law sword seeds were extremely effective in drawing forth all 5 types of void heaven laws. Naturally, Yichen also utilized this method when attempting to break through to the rotating pill realm. Without the aid of this method, the 5 patterns of the divine beasts on Yichen's nascent rotating pill would have been enough to draw in the 5 great void heaven laws. With the addition of the 5 law sword seeds, Yichen's nascent rotating pill became irresistibly attractive to the 5 great void heaven laws. Thud! 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 After Yichen's nascent rotating pill burst into the aura of the 5 great void heaven laws, the entire aura churned tumultuously. In the end, from the boundless law aura, suddenly burst forth 5 different colored rays of light. These were precisely the 5 great void heaven law rays. Upon seeing these 5 great void heaven law rays burst forth and shine towards Yichen's nascent rotating pill, the martial artists from Tian and outside the arena who had been fervently hoping for Yichen's successful breakthrough, Elder Shao Supreme Elder, Mu Qingqing, Jiang Yao, and others were all ecstatic. With the simultaneous emergence of the 5 great void heaven law rays, it seemed inevitable that Yichen's nascent rotating pill was going to break through to become a 5 apertures rotating pill. 5 apertures rotating pill. Yichen has really managed to merge into a 5 apertures rotating pill. Before the screaming of the crowd could cease, the 5 differently colored law rays directly shot onto Yichen's nascent rotating pill. Puffed, 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 puffed. After 5 sounds, the rays pierced through the nascent rotating pill, creating 5 apertures. The moment the 5 apertures were drilled into the nascent rotating pill, the magnificent aura of the 5 great void heaven laws in the sky began to furiously pour into the apertures. In the blink of an eye, all of the 5 great void heaven laws aura had tunneled into Yichen's nascent rotating pill. Simultaneously, a strange divine light shone down from the heavens, enveloping both the whole nascent rotating pill and Yichen beneath in its radiance. No, At this time, it could no longer be called a nascent rotating pill. Having opened up the 5 grand apertures and successfully merged with the overwhelming 5 great void heaven laws aura, the rotating pill had reached the second step of breaking through to the rotating pill realm, the law integration. At this moment, the rotating pill had become a genuine rotating pill. With the divine light shining down, the rotating pill was complete. Henceforth, Yi Chun had successfully stepped into the rotating pill realm, becoming a true rotating pill powerhouse. Chapter 343, Undercurrents Surge. In the void heaven sword valley, Yi Chun raised his head and looked at the 5 apertures rotating pill bathing in the divine light, feeling an overwhelming sense of pride surging in his chest. The rotating pill realm. After countless days and nights of arduous cultivation, he had finally broken through the true Qi realm and the spirit Sea realm, stepping successfully into the rotating pill realm. And what's more, he had formed the most perfect 5 apertures rotating pill. The people outside the void heaven sword valley could sense the divine marvel of the 5 apertures rotating pill, but they had no idea how powerful this pill actually was. As the master of the 5 apertures rotating pill, Yi Chun, of course, knew what the formation of this pill represented. This was a rotating pill formed by refining countless strands of primordial true liquid, a pill that contained the 5 great divine bloods, and even had a greater number of heavenly void laws integrated into it than anyone else. Even the last rays of divine light that shone on the pill contained countless spiritual patterns attained from contemplating the 5 great heavenly void laws. Yi Chun looked at his rotating pill and took a deep breath. With the formation of the rotating pill realm, my true Qi and strength have been greatly improved once again. What's more precious is that after stepping into the rotating pill realm, I can officially begin to cultivate the 3rd chapter of the primordial star scripture, Taiyuan chapter, and comprehend the 5 great heavenly void laws. Everything is a new beginning, the start of striving towards even greater strength. Yi Chun, with myriad thoughts flickering in his mind, stood up from the void. He looked towards the 5 apertures rotating pill in the heavens with his eyes, and as the rotating spiritual pattern on his forehead flickered, the 5 apertures rotating pill bathed in divine light shot towards him, entering his body. In the end, the rotating pill entered the Qi Sea world within Yi Chun, floating amidst the misty starry fog. Having taken the rotating pill into his body, Yi Chun glanced one more time at the void heaven sword valley, and then, under the gaze of countless eyes, was transported outside the void heaven sword valley. Yi Chun! Yi Chun! As soon as Yi Chun was teleported outside the void heaven sword valley, Zhang Yao, Mu Qingqing, and others all rushed over to him. Even Elder Shao, Supreme Elder, smiled gently, took a step into the void, and appeared beside Yi Chun. Several days later, following the conclusion of the Spirit Sea Realm Sword Fighting Tournament and the Hidden Dragon List competition, countless martial artists left Immeasurable Mountain, heading back to their respective territories and kingdoms. Immeasurable Mountain returned to its quiet state. However, as these martial artists returned to their territories and the news of the 2 great events at Immeasurable Mountain spread, discussions erupted across countless regions in the Middle Realm. The focal point of these discussions was Yi Chun and Zhang Yao, who ranked 1st and 2nd in the sword fighting tournament at the Void Heaven Sword Valley. Their fame even surpassed those of the top 3 from the Hidden Dragon List competition. Not only had both of them been invited by the Heavenly Sacred Palace to become disciples before the 2 events, but under numerous watchful eyes, they had both achieved the most perfect 5 apertures rotating pill. This was also because, even Shao Chun, who reigned supreme in the Hidden Dragon List competition with an unbeatable rotating pill, was extremely respectful and admiring of Yi Chun and Zhang Yao in full view of the crowd. On a flying boat heading to the Southern Territory, there were hundreds of martial artists rushing back to the Southern Territory from Immeasurable Mountain. Among them were the 3 Sure brothers and Taoist Wine Sword. At that moment, these hundreds of martial artists were toasting with their cups, drinking the strong liquor with much enjoyment. All the Southern Territory martial artists' faces were brimming with smiles. That felt so good. I didn't expect Brother Yi Chun to be so powerful, not only seizing 1st place in the Spirit Sea Realm Sword Fighting Tournament, but even achieving the 5 apertures rotating pill. This time, the two major events at Immeasurable Mountain truly reclaimed our honor for the Southern Territory. Shi Tianhe took a big gulp of wine and said with a loud laugh, "Right, did you notice? When Brother Yichun emerged from the Void Heaven Sword Valley, many heavenly saints were very enthusiastic towards him, clearly seeking to foster a relationship with Brother Yichun." Shi Tianjiang next to Shi Tianhe couldn't help but nod in agreement. Of course, when Brother Yichun was in the Spirit Sea realm, he had already dominated the supreme rotating pill. Now, as a true 5 apertures rotating pill powerhouse, his future achievements are boundless, with the possibility of surpassing those heavenly saints. They naturally want to be on good terms with Brother Yichun. Even Xiao Chun, ranked first in the Hidden Dragon List competition, was extremely courteous to Brother Yichun, directly acknowledging that Brother Yichun's strength was greater than his own. "I bet Brother Yichun's current strength would definitely allow him to battle with early-stage Heavenly Saint Realm experts." Shi Tianhe's eyes also sparkled with excitement. The ability to fight against early-stage Heavenly Saint Realm experts, although not necessarily able to defeat them, indicated that Yichun had stepped into the Heavenly Saint level. After all, Yichun was only in the rotating pill realm and barely 16 years old by bone age. With such achievements at this age, his future potential was limitless. Given time, when Yichun further cultivates and truly becomes capable of overpowering early-stage Heavenly Saint Realm experts, it will surely be no empty talk. Of course, this made the 3 Shi brothers extremely excited. It also filled countless Southern Territory martial artists with excitement. The reason these Southern Territory martial artists were so jubilant on their return from Immeasurable Mountain, indulging in such joyful drinking, was due to this cause. After all, with the long-standing blood feud between the Southern Territory and the Western Wilderness, especially as a great battle with the Western Wilderness loomed, many Southern Territory martial artists felt a sense of gloom on their minds. Now that the Southern Territory had a young genius like Yichun, coupled with the already mighty Heavenly Saint Long Xian of the Southern Territory, many warriors were no longer afraid of the impending war. Many knew that as Yichun grew stronger, the Southern Territory would truly be able to completely subjugate the 10 demon sects of the Western Wilderness. It's not just Yichun. In the crowd, Taoist Wine Sword also had a face full of smiles. Zhang Yao as well. You haven't seen it, but when Zhang Yao finished her cultivation and achieved the 5 apertures rotating pill, many early Heavenly Saint Realm experts had a drastic change of face, seemingly harboring a sense of fear. That indicates that Zhang Yao's true strength is very likely not the slightest bit weaker than Yichun, who has completed his realm breakthrough. She might even be capable of competing with early Heavenly Saint Realm experts. One Yichun, and then there's Zhang Yao. This pair of heaven's chosen truly brings us great hope in the Southern Territory. Taoist Wine Sword sighed with emotion, as if recalling the scene when he first met Yichun and Zhang Yao at the Taishan sect. The warriors from the Southern Territory were extremely excited and overjoyed. On a pitch-black flying boat heading towards the Western Wilderness, however, the atmosphere was oppressive. About 500 or 600 disciples from the 10 great demon sects of the Western Wilderness all wore somber expressions. Among them, Taoist Quzhen from the demon sects, who was in charge of the sword fighting tournament and was at the later stages of the rotating pill realm, looked at a rotating pill and spoke in a low voice. "How is it going, the news about Yichun and Zhang Yao? Has it been passed on to the ancestors?" We had already reported to the ancestors when we left Immeasurable Mountain. By now, they should have received the information, the rotating pill replied. Taoist Quzhen nodded. "I didn't expect that 2 such prodigious figures would emerge from the Southern Territory. This complicates matters. With such combat power at their young age, give them some time, and they might even surpass Heavenly Saint Long Xian, the #1 powerhouse in the Southern Territory. By then, we in the Western Wilderness will no longer be a match for the Southern Territory." Another late-stage rotating pill disciple from the demon sects beside Taoist Quzhen also spoke solemnly. "Indeed, the Southern Territory is of utmost importance to us in the Western Wilderness. No matter what, we must retake the Southern Territory. The ancestors will surely come up with a solution. Yichun and Zhang Yao may be formidable, but after all, they have not truly stepped into the Heavenly Saint Realm. There should still be a way to deal with them. Yet another late-stage rotating pill disciple spoke up. I have already sent a message to our sect's strongest member in the heavenly sacred palace, elder brother Yin Qianjue, with Yi Chan and Zhang Yao joining the heavenly sacred palace. Elder brother Yin will be closely monitoring them. Elder brother Yin has many powerful friends after so many years in the heavenly sacred palace. I've heard that he has made acquaintance with a few heavenly saints. Perhaps the elders won't even need to take action. Elder brother Yin alone might help us deal with Yi Chan and Zhang Yao properly and cut off any chance for them to enhance their strength further. This statement from the rotating pill disciple stirred the minds of many disciples from the demon sects. Elder brother Yin Qianjue? Right. Elder brother Yin Qianjue has also reached the invincible level of the rotating pill, and because of his significant talent, he holds strong influence within the heavenly sacred palace. It was through elder brother Yin that our ancestors managed to make contact with the loose cultivators in the chaotic sea area. It's possible that elder brother Yin could genuinely thwart Yi Chen's progress. It was only then that the demon sect disciples' darkened spirits lightened somewhat. Within the most mysterious secret ground of the Great Xia dynasty, located within the domain of the second grade sect, the heavenly sacred palace, inside a pavilion in the first holy temple area, a young man clad in dark clothes sat quietly, twisting a communication talisman in his hand. After a long time, the talisman in his hand ignited without wind and instantly turned to nothingness. Yet, the young man clad in dark clothes lifted his face, looking out of the pavilion. Yi Chan? Just entered the rotating pill realm and already more formidable than the supreme rotating pill. How could the Southern Territory produce such an impressive youth? And there's Zhang Yao? The young man in dark clothes furrowed his brows. After a moment of brooding with furrowed brows, his hand flashed with spiritual light, and a talisman flew out of the pavilion he was in. About the time it takes to drink a cup of tea, a loud, hearty laugh could be heard outside the pavilion where the young man was. Qianju, my dear brother, why the hurry in calling me here? What's the matter? Looking towards the source of the voice, one could see that the newcomer was an early-stage heavenly saint powerhouse. And this Qianju, my dear brother, the young man in dark attire, was none other than the strongest practitioner from the 10 grand demon sects in the western wilderness cultivating in the heavenly sacred palace Yin Qianjue. The news of the conclusion of the 2 grand events stirred various territories including the Southern Territory, Western Wilderness, Central Region, Extreme North, and the Eastern Polar Star Archipelago. Discussions, surprises, and undercurrents surged in a chain reaction. Meanwhile, Yi Chen, Zhang Yao, and the top 3 from the Hidden Dragon list, led by Mu Qingqing, were rushing back to the heavenly sacred palace. As for Elder Shao Supreme Elder and some other heavenly saints from the heavenly sacred palace who had attended the 2 grand events, they did not travel with Yi Chan and the others but headed to the Taiye sword sect instead. After traveling for a considerable 15 days, Yi Chan and Zhang Yao finally saw a vast valley shrouded in endless fog in the distance. Yi Chan, Sister Zhang Yao, that's the heavenly sacred palace ahead. Through this fog, we can truly enter the domain of the heavenly sacred palace. Seeing the fog that enveloped the entire valley, Mu Qingqing said to Yi Chan and Zhang Yao with a cheerful smile, "The heavenly sacred palace?" Yi Chan and Zhang Yao exchanged glances. At last, we will see what this legendary number 1 sect in the central region looks like. Both of them revealed a faint smile. Chapter 344. Heavenly Sacred Palace, Hidden Dragon Hall. Next to Yi Chan and Zhang Yao, the top 3 of the Hidden Dragon List competition, Lu Qingmei, Xiao Chen, and Luo Lai, also became excited after hearing Mu Qingqing's words. Heavenly Sacred Palace, the number 1 sect in the central region, the only second-tier sect, was a grand sect with late-stage Heavenly Saint Realm powerhouses in residence. About to enter such a grand sect, it was no wonder they couldn't help feeling extremely excited. This mist in the valleys is the sect's hidden prohibition. Without the permission of Heavenly Sacred Palace, no one else can enter. Let's go. I'll take you inside. Mu Qingqing giggled and led the way ahead. Following Mu Qingqing, Yi Chen, Zhang Yao, Lu Qingmei, and the others also shot forward, flying towards the direction of the valley. After reaching a certain location outside the valley, Mu Qingqing stopped. She raised her small hand, and a ray of light flew into the mist. It wasn't long before a group of figures appeared directly from within the mist. This group, donning the attire of guards, appeared to be those stationed at the entrance of the valley. The leader, dressed in golden armor and with a burly stature, astonished Yi-chan and the others even more with his cultivation level. This leading figure was actually exuding the aura of an early-stage heavenly saint powerhouse. Indeed, a heavenly saint. A heavenly saint, even if only an early-stage powerhouse, was enough to preside over a fourth-tier grand sect. In Heavenly Sacred Palace, he was merely the leader guarding the entrance to this valley. Looking beyond this leading figure to the others behind him, the dozen or so individuals following this heavenly saint were all at the late stages of the rotating pill realm. The team stationed at the entrance to the valley, led by a heavenly saint with the rest all late-stage rotating pill powerhouses, was a force truly formidable and astounding. And this was only a small squad guarding the entrance to the valley. The depth of Heavenly Sacred Palace was staggeringly powerful. A second-tier sect, indeed a second-tier sect. This thought involuntarily crossed the minds of Yi-chan and the others. After this guardian squad appeared from within the mist, they immediately noticed Mu Qingqing, and behind her Yi-chan, Jiang Yao, and the other 5 individuals. Having examined Yi-chan and the rest, the leading heavenly saint smiled at Mu Qingqing and said, "Qing girl, are these 5 the new disciples you've brought back this time? I heard you've chosen a formidable prodigy this time and even held 2 grand events especially for him. Which young man is it?" As this heavenly saint spoke, his gaze settled on Yi-chan, Xiao-chan, and Luo Lai. Based on the messages sent back to Heavenly Sacred Palace, this heavenly saint knew that Mu Qingqing prized a male warrior, so he didn't suspect Jiang Yao or Lu Qingmei. Hearing the heavenly saint's question, Mu Qingqing's eyes twinkled as she giggled at the heavenly saint. "Mr. Mu, why don't you take a guess?" "Take a guess." The heavenly saint's gaze flitted over Xiao-chan and Luo Lai. After seeing their expressions, he looked at Yi-chan somewhat incredulously. Could it be this young friend? Yi-chan was merely at the early stages of the rotating pill realm, and his powerful combat abilities weren't externally visible, so naturally, Heavenly Saint Mu had not sensed it. But precisely when Mu Qingqing spoke, both Xiao-chan and Luo Lai's gazes were directed at Yi-chan, obviously leading Heavenly Saint Mu to guess right away that the prodigious young man he was inquiring about was Yi-chan. A rotating pill early stage, esteemed so highly by Mu Qingqing? This, of course, astonished Heavenly Saint Mu immensely. Seeing the surprised look on Heavenly Saint Mu's face, Mu Qingqing smiled softly. "Uncle Mu mustn't have heard about the results of the 2 grand events yet. Don't be fooled by Yi-chan's early-stage rotating pill status. When he was in the Spirit Sea realm, he was already able to suppress the strongest at the later stages of rotating pill." Mu Qingqing's words caused Heavenly Saint Mu to take a sharp breath. Even the other rotating pill guards behind Heavenly Saint Mu, after hearing Mu Qingqing's words, started looking at Yi-chan incredulously. Yi-chan, although Heavenly Sacred Palace does not involve itself in the conflicts of the barbaric wilderness continent, strength is still revered here. The stronger you are, the more powerful people you will meet in the future, and the more help you will receive. So, don't blame me for boasting about your prowess. Mu Qingqing chuckled as she transmitted her voice to Yi-chan. Similarly, the young girl complained to Yi-chan, "I went out this time as an envoy. The other envoys all said I wouldn't be able to pick a formidable disciple. Yi-chan, you and Sister Jiang Yao must help me settle the score and show them your might." Hearing Mu Qingqing's petulant tone in her transmission, Yi-chan smiled and nodded. Seeing Yi-chan nod, Mu Qingqing felt even more reassured. Noticing that Heavenly Saint Mu and the group of late-stage rotating pill guards were still looking at Yi-chan in astonishment, Mu Qingqing didn't want to waste any more time. She said to Heavenly Saint Mu, "All right, Uncle Mu, let us in quick. By the way, have the other envoys returned yet?" Hearing Mu Qingqing's urging, Heavenly Saint Mu recovered from his shock. He couldn't help but take a few more glances at Yi-chan before raising his hand grandly. The team of rotating pills behind him then took out a handful of talismans and threw them into the mist. Following that, a grand gateway became visible within the mist-covered valley. "All right, little Qing, I would not dare to stand in your way if you wish to enter," Heavenly Saint Mu said with a smile as he nodded to Mu Qingqing. "The days for choosing disciples across the lands are over, and the other envoys have been returning these past few days. Right now, they are all inside the hidden dragon hall." "They've all returned?" Mu Qingqing's beautiful eyes lit up. Afterward, Mu Qingqing turned and explained to Yi Chen, Jiang Yao, Lu Qingmei, and the other two, "This gate is the true entrance to the heavenly sacred palace. Let's go. We shall head to the hidden dragon hall first." Having said this, Mu Qingqing burst through the gate and entered. Hidden dragon hall? After paying their respects to Heavenly Saint Mu and his party, Yi Chen and the others followed closely behind Mu Qingqing, flying into the gate as well. Nonetheless, they were all somewhat puzzled about what the hidden dragon hall actually was. Upon truly entering through the valley gate, Yi Chen, Jiang Yao, Lu Qingmei, Xiao Chen, and Luo Lai caught sight of the newly revealed mystical land and couldn't help but take a deep breath. From the outside, they had just been in a mist-filled valley, but once they flew through the entrance of the valley gate, they felt as if they had arrived in a completely new world. They were now flying in midair, and in front of them stood row upon row of majestic, colossal palaces stretching out into 5 vast regions. Beyond these numerous palaces stood a range of mountains piercing the heavens. Heavenly Sacred Palace. Certainly, this was the true location of the gates to the Heavenly Sacred Palace, hidden within the valley's restrictions. Grand, majestic, their spirit was profoundly affected. These were the first impressions of Yi Chen and the others upon seeing the gates to the Heavenly Sacred Palace. And every now and then, they could see figures flitting about in the sky and walking on the ground, clearly the disciples of the Heavenly Sacred Palace. Thinking that they would soon become part of the fold, even Yi Chen and Jiang Yao felt their hearts stir with excitement. Mu Qingqing, leading the way, seemed to sense their mood. She smiled gently and began to explain the layout of the gates to the Heavenly Sacred Palace to Yi Chen and the group. These 5 vast regions on the outskirts are the palace's 5 sacred halls. The outermost is the 5th sacred hall where the disciples of the true Qi realm cultivate. Moving inward, there are the 4th sacred hall for the Spirit Sea realm disciples, the 3rd sacred hall for the rotating Pill realm disciples, and the most outstanding prodigies occupy the 2nd and 1st sacred halls. As for the giant mountain in the far distance, that is Heavenly Saint Mountain, where the Heavenly Saint realm powerhouses reside. 5 sacred halls. Heavenly Saint Mountain. Yi Chen raised his head to look at what lay ahead, his eyes shining with anticipation. This was where he would be cultivating from now on, where perhaps he could break through from the rotating pill to the Heavenly Saint realm. Not just Yi Chen, but Jiang Yao, Lu Qingmei, Xiao Chen, and Luo Lai all gazed at the gates to the Heavenly Sacred Palace with sparkles in their eyes, fantasizing about their future cultivation. After Mu Qingqing completed her introduction of the various regions, she continued, "Right now, we can't head directly to these regions. We have to make a trip to the Hidden Dragon Hall first." The Hidden Dragon Hall is where the disciples selected by the envoys undergo assessments to confirm their strengths. Although being chosen by an envoy guarantees entry into the Heavenly Sacred Palace, to join the 1st or 2nd Sacred Hall, one must undergo an assessment. If the assessment is failed, you will be placed in the 3rd, 4th, or 5th Sacred Hall based on your cultivation level. As she spoke, Mu Qingqing specifically looked at Yi Chen and Jiang Yao. "Yi Chen and Sister Jiang Yao, although you have been recommended by me and Elder Xiao as disciples of the 1st Sacred Hall, this procedural assessment must still be undertaken. Of course, with your strengths, joining the 1st Sacred Hall will surely be a breeze. Sister Lu Qingmei, Xiao Chen, and Luo Lai, although you have no heavenly saint to recommend you and can only aim for the 2nd Sacred Hall, if your performance exceeds the 2nd Sacred Hall's assessment standards and meets the 1st Sacred Hall's criteria, I can also seek a heavenly saint's recommendation for you, allowing you to join the 1st Sacred Hall as well." Mu Qingqing's words made Lu Qingmei, Xiao Chen, and Luo Lai look serious. After Yi Chun and Jiang Yao exchanged glances, they both nodded. Now the five of them finally understood what the Hidden Dragon Hall was for. It was, in fact, the place where new disciples were assessed before entering the Heavenly Sacred Palace. No wonder the grand competition to select disciples for the Heavenly Sacred Palace was named the Hidden Dragon List. All right, let's head to the Hidden Dragon Hall first. The disciples selected by the other envoys are already there. Mu Qingqing pointed toward a palace on the outermost edge of the 5 regions of the Heavenly Sacred Palace and said, Chapter 345, The 8 Envoys. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Whether it was Mu Qingqing leading the way or Yi Chun, Jiang Yao, and the rest of their party, their flying speed was extremely fast. In just a moment, the 6 of them arrived outside the Grand Palace. Yi Chun looked up at the palace and saw that it was dozens of feet high, with the words Hidden Dragon Hall inscribed on the plaque above. The most astonishing thing was the 2 giant black dragons carved on the exterior walls of the palace. The 2 gigantic black dragons, with their huge heads and eyes, were staring down at anyone who looked at them. Yi Chen's strength was already quite formidable, but when he looked into the eyes of these 2 giant black dragons, he still felt an overwhelming sense of pressure. This pressure was even greater than the pressure from many early-stage Heavenly Saint Realm powerhouses. It was incredible that the 2 carved black dragons could exert such an intimidating force. Yi Chun felt a great deal of pressure, and standing beside him, Jiang Yao felt the same. However, Lu Qingmei, Xiao Chen, and Luo Lai were directly stunned by the pressure of the black dragons, their faces turning somewhat pale from fear. It wasn't until Mu Qingqing spoke up that the 3 of them were roused from the intimidation of the black dragons. These 2 black dragons were carved by the most powerful master of our Heavenly Sacred Palace, Palace Master Yuan Li, and contain immense divine soul power. When their might is fully unleashed, they even possess the strength of a mid-stage Heavenly Saint. Although their true might isn't activated now, the pressure naturally emanating from these carvings is enough to astonish the soul. Since you haven't cultivated the Divine Soul Secret technique, it's better not to stare into their eyes, said Mu Qingqing. Carved by Palace Master Yuan Li, containing divine soul power, capable of possessing the strength of a mid-stage Heavenly Saint upon activation. The words of Mu Qingqing made Yi Chun and the others take another deep breath. The 5 of them gained a renewed recognition of the power of the Heavenly Sacred Palace. Although the 5 of them were considered top-notch experts outside, they were still not counted as true powerhouses in the Heavenly Sacred Palace. After all, on Heavenly Saint Mountain within the Heavenly Sacred Palace, there were many Heavenly Saint Realm powerhouses, including 3 in the late stages of the realm. Just the pressure from the carvings of the 2 black dragons was enough to make them feel oppressed. They would truly need to diligently cultivate if they were to advance into the deeper levels of the Heavenly Sacred Palace. Otherwise they could end up in a lower position within the palace. All right, let's go. We should enter, said Mu Qingqing with a smile, as she saw everyone recover from their astonishment at the black dragon statues. Yi Chun and the others nodded, following Mu Qingqing as they stepped into the Hidden Dragon Hall. Upon entering the Hidden Dragon Hall, Yi Chun found that the interior was incredibly spacious, with giant columns standing erect throughout the hall, supporting the vast dome above. At this moment, seated within the hall were quite a few figures. Among these figures, 7 had reached the early stages of the Heavenly Saint Realm. As Yi Chun and the rest walked in, these seated figures took note of them. Their curiosity piqued as they looked over. The 7 early-stage Heavenly Saints especially gathered around Mu Qingqing. So it's junior sister Mu returning. The 7 greeted Mu Qingqing with smiles. At the same time, their gazes swept over Yi Chun and his party like lightning, carrying with them an unmistakable sense of scrutiny from a superior position. Being scrutinized by 7 early-stage Heavenly Saints, while not as intense as the pressure from the earlier mid-stage Heavenly Saint Black Dragon carvings, still made Xiao Chun and Luo Lai dare not meet their gaze directly, though Lu Qingmei fared slightly better. Yi Chun and Jiang Yao were the only 2 unaffected by the gaze of the 7 individuals. Seeing something distinctly different about Yi Chun and Jiang Yao, the eyes of these 7 early-stage Heavenly Saints finally settled on them. Especially Jiang Yao, Her incredibly beautiful face and the pure, divine-like aura emanating from her body were so captivating that the heavenly saints took a few extra glances, their eyes burning with intensity. Feeling the scrutiny of the seven, Zhang Yao's elegant eyebrows slightly furrowed as she reached for Yi Chen's hand. Yi Chen flipped his palm and took Zhang Yao's soft hand into his, and at the same time, he casually looked back at the seven. For some reason, when Yi Chen gazed at them, the heavenly saints all felt an uncomfortable jolt in their hearts. It was not a good feeling. 3 of the heavenly saints couldn't help but let out a cold snort, their eyes piercing as they looked back at Yi Chen. The mutual gaze lasted only for an instant when, at that moment, Mu Qingqing, who was standing nearby, noticed the exchange of looks between Yi Chen and the 7 heavenly saints. She stepped forward to stand beside Yi Chen and Zhang Yao and spoke out to the 7 heavenly saints. "What's the matter, 7 esteemed envoys? Do you intend to intimidate our new disciples?" It turned out that these 7 heavenly saints were, like Mu Qingqing, envoys of the heavenly sacred palace. Mu Qingqing's words were indifferent, but they already carried an undertone of dissatisfaction, which took the 7 heavenly saints by surprise. According to the rules of the heavenly sacred palace, the envoys had the right to scrutinize new disciples, but by the look on Mu Qingqing's face, the 7 heavenly saints had the feeling that if they really troubled the young couple in front of them, Mu Qingqing wouldn't hesitate to turn against them. Even though Mu Qingqing was only at the Spirit Sea realm, which was much lower than their realms, behind her stood a figure none of them dared to provoke. Even with the nerve, they wouldn't dare to conflict with Mu Qingqing. It seems that Mu treats this pair of young recruits at the Spirited Pillar initial stage quite highly, the 7 heavenly saints thought to themselves. With this in mind, the 7 heavenly saints no longer stealthily assessed Zhang Yao, and even the fierce look in their eyes towards Yi Chen subsided. The leading heavenly saint even smiled at Mu Qingqing, saying, "Mu, you jest. We wouldn't dare to show off to the disciples chosen by you. We've just heard that Mu has selected an exceptional talent this time, and that for the sake of this talent, our heavenly sacred palace even organized the Hidden Dragon List competition. Out of curiosity, we wanted to see which talent it was." Hearing the 7 soften their tone, Mu Qingqing relaxed her own tone slightly. "Humph, you speak as if you mean it. I heard that before the 8 of us envoys left, you privately criticized the talent I chose as being the worst. How could we? How could we?" The 7 heavenly saints shook their heads in unison, but their eyes betrayed a clear disbelief in the capabilities of the 5 individuals Mu Qingqing had brought back. At least, they had been envoys for much longer than Mu Qingqing and thus knew better how to pick real talents. They all thought that Mu Qingqing, being new to the role, had found someone decent and believed she had struck gold. Mu Qingqing, cunning as a fox, could clearly see the skepticism in their expressions. However, at this moment, she had no desire to argue further with them and simply addressed the 7. "Now that all 8 of us have returned, let's begin the examination for the new disciples."
Chapter 346. Blutstrippe war Biest.
Seeing Mu Qingqing so confident, the 7 heavenly saints began to harbor some doubts. Could it be that this time their disciple from the Spirit Sea realm, Mu, had really chosen an impressive student? During this period, they had been selecting talents outside and had heard about the 2 grand events organized by Mu Qingqing, but they had no time to pay attention to the actual process and outcome of those events, nor did they know the true strength of Yi Chen and his 4 companions. Thus, seeing Mu Qingqing so confident and directly requesting the start of the new disciples' assessment, they began to feel uncertain. However, uncertain as they might have been, when it came to comparing whose newly selected disciples were more formidable, they were not afraid. Recently, they had traversed through various inheritances and secretive places that often produced prodigies. Having rushed back to the heavenly sacred palace, every heavenly saint had brought back several geniuses they valued highly. In their eyes, even at their worst, they wouldn't be outdone by the new disciples selected by Mu Qingqing from the Spirit Sea realm. After all, they were heavenly saints. The dangerous and secretive places they walked through were far more numerous than those of Mu Qingqing, meaning they had a much higher probability of selecting prodigies. Good. Since Mu has also returned, let's start the assessment. I also want to see the real strength of the new disciples chosen by various envoys. An envoy said with a smile. Let's begin. The other envoys nodded in agreement. The words of the envoys were, of course, closely monitored by all the new disciples. Upon hearing that they had all agreed to start the new disciples' assessment, everyone who had been sitting on the ground stood up and flocked behind the several envoys. Yichen noticed that, including the 5 of them selected by Mu Qingqing, along with the other 7 great envoys, the total number of newly selected disciples was 58. Clearly, the 7 great heavenly saint envoys had chosen more new disciples. As Yi Chun was sizing up the others, the new disciples were also eyeing each other. At this moment, a leading heavenly saint spoke directly to the crowd. All you new disciples who have joined the heavenly sacred palace, the envoys who brought you here must have told you about the new disciples' assessment, right? The new disciples nodded one after another. This heavenly saint continued, since you all know this rule, let me explain the specifics of the assessment to you. This new disciples' assessment consists of 2 parts. The first part involves battling a bloodstripe war beast. The second, conquering the Holy Temple Tower. You were chosen to join the heavenly sacred palace because you are the geniuses of your respective regions. And here, all cultivating disciples are geniuses. Since we are all prodigies, there must naturally be different levels of talent among us. This first part, battling the bloodstripe war beast, is about selecting superior geniuses among you. If your strength is not enough to defeat the bloodstripe war beast, and you can't pass the first part, then you will be assigned to cultivate in the 3rd Holy Temple, 4th Holy Temple, or 5th Holy Temple based on your own realm. However, if you can pass the first part, then you may enter the Holy Temple Tower to earn the qualifications for the 2nd Holy Temple and 1st Holy Temple disciples. Follow us now to the War Beast Hall and challenge the first part, the heavenly saint said, nodding to the other envoys and leading the way. Mu Qingqing turned back to wink at Yichun and Zhang Yao and joined the other envoys in leading the way.
Blutstrippe war Biest.
Hearing about the first part, battling a bloodstripe war beast, which was crucial for charging into the powerful 2nd Holy Temple and 1st Holy Temple, all the new disciples grew solemn. These new disciples were exceedingly proud and, of course, didn't wish to be assigned directly to the lower-ranked 3rd Holy Temple, 4th Holy Temple, or 5th Holy Temple. Naturally, they aimed to strike at the legendary 2nd Holy Temple, or even the 1st Holy Temple of the Heavenly Sacred Palace. However, they all became curious about the bloodstripe war beast. None of them had ever heard what a bloodstripe war beast was. Yichun was somewhat puzzled about what the bloodstripe war beast was and how to battle it. However, he didn't think too much about it. After all, he would find out soon enough, so there was no need to worry excessively. Following behind the 8 great envoys, Yichun, along with Zhang Yao, Lu Qingmei, Xiao Chun, and Luo Lai, followed the crowd towards the War Beast Hall. Leaving the main hall of the Hidden Dragon Hall and passing through several corridors, the group arrived in a side hall. Although it was a side hall, the space was vast, large enough to accommodate 10,000 people. More notably, in one corner of this side hall, there was a dark and gloomy secret tunnel from which occasional roars that shocked the soul were heard. Clearly, something was hidden within this tunnel. Outside this tunnel, an area of several hundred yards in diameter was fenced off. This is the War Beast Hall? Could it be that the bloodstripe war beast is in that dark and gloomy tunnel? All the new disciples speculated as they looked at the tunnel in the corner of the side hall. The 8 great envoys, having led everyone into the side hall, then stopped walking. This place is the War Beast Hall. The same heavenly saint who had spoken earlier said to the crowd. Before we tackle the first part, let me tell you about the origins of this bloodstripe war beast. This bloodstripe war beast is not from our savage continent, but a bizarre creature caught from a void abyss between our continent and 32 others. Boom! The words of the heavenly saint alarmed all the new disciples, including Yichun. They had never imagined they would be fighting creatures not from the savage continent, but from the mysterious abyss between continents. Between continents. None of them had ever left the savage continent, stepping into other continents or the interspatial realms between them. It was precisely because the heavenly sacred palace possessed an ancient teleportation formation with the other 32 continents that they often had the opportunity to encounter other continents, leading them to choose to join the heavenly sacred palace. They thought they would only encounter creatures from other continents later on, but to their surprise, this new disciple assessment gave them the direct chance to engage with species from beyond the savage continent.
Blutstrippe war Biest.
At this point, all the new disciples grew curious about what this exotic species from beyond the savage continent looked like. The bloodstripe war beasts reside in the void abyss between the heavenly vast continent and the heavens continent. These war beasts have combat blood patterns on their bodies, possess immense strength, are bloody and brutal, and do not fear pain. In battle, they can even continuously escalate their power. For the first trial of your assessment, if disciples in the true Chi realm and the spirit Sea realm want to pass, they must defeat 10 bloodstripe war beasts that surpass their realm by a large margin. Disciples in the rotating pill realm must also fight 10 bloodstripe war beasts of the supreme rotating pill level, and those in the later stages of rotating pill realm who have reached the unbeatable level must defeat 10 unbeatable level bloodstripe war beasts at the same time. You must take note, you have to decisively defeat these bloodstripe war beasts. Otherwise, if you take too long and do not defeat them, the beasts will escalate their power, and the difficulty of the assessment will greatly increase. The leading heavenly saint explained the rules of the assessment to everyone. Hearing these rules, the expressions of all the new disciples became grave. Among these new disciples were those ranging from the true Chi realm to the rotating pill realm. True Chi realm and Spirit Sea realm disciples had to fight bloodstripe war beasts that were a major realm above themselves, which meant they had to have the ability to fight across a major level of power. In other words, an early-stage disciple of the Spirit Sea realm must be able to fight against an early-stage rotating pill realm. And not only fight against 10 early-stage rotating pill realm bloodstripe war beasts but also defeat them before they could enhance their powers. Difficult. The requirement was incredibly tough. Anyone meeting this requirement could indeed be called a true genius. The assessment for the true Chi realm and Spirit Sea realm was extremely challenging, and the rotating pill realm was no less difficult, having to confront bloodstripe war beasts of both the supreme rotating pill and the unbeatable level. Unbeatable in the rotating pill realm, just the name alone indicated that at this level, the war beasts virtually had no flaws in their true Chi techniques. To defeat such level bloodstripe war beasts, one had to possess not only unbeatable level true Chi techniques but also other extraordinary methods. This requirement was incredibly difficult for practitioners of the Chi refining method. If more time was wasted, allowing these bloodstripe war beasts to further escalate their power, the chance of defeating them turned into a virtually impossible dream. Realizing this, many new disciples wore extremely heavy expressions. Everyone understood that indeed, entry into the second holy temple and the first holy temple was not easy at all. The new disciples wore solemn faces, but the assessment had to proceed all the same. After all the explanations about the bloodstripe war beasts were made clear, finally the heavenly saint added, "According to the envoy you belong to, come forward one by one for the assessment." At this time, one of the envoys stepped forward and said, "Let's start with the disciple I selected. Wang Lin, step up first, enter the assessment area, and begin your test." From among the crowd, a young man in the early stages of the Spirit Sea realm stepped out and walked toward a corner of the War Beast Hall, surrounded by an area. Wang Lin is a disciple I chose from the central region of the Great Zhou dynasty. He trained before in a 4th-grade family. While the envoy introduced the young man's background, Wang Lin had already stepped into the assessment area. After finishing the introduction and seeing that Wang Lin was standing in the center of the assessment area, a few envoys exchanged glances, and then one of the heavenly saints directly took out a talisman and shone it toward the dark hole in front of the assessment area. Roar! 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 After a series of earth-shattering roars, 10 massive beasts, each towering over a dozen meters high, burst out of the hole with a boom and slammed onto the ground, causing the ground to tremble. They formed an encirclement around Wang Lin, who had entered the assessment area. Yi Chun looked over at these giant beasts and saw that they resembled humans yet were several times more inflated in size and had fangs several feet long. Their muscles were as prominent as coiling dragons, exuding immense strength. Even more extraordinary were the bodies of these giant beasts. They were covered in pitch-black scales, and from these scales, Yi Chun could even sense the aura of the 5 great laws of the void. Then, as the 10 behemoths roared out and violently crashed down around the assessor Wang Lin, the pitch-black scales on the bodies of the 10 beasts suddenly all had 7 stripes turned to blood red. 7 patterns. These turned out to be 7-pattern bloodstripe war beasts that corresponded to the early stage of the rotating pill realm. Chapter 347, Instant Kill. At the early stages of the Spirit Sea realm, Wang Lin was surrounded by 10 bloodstripe war beasts that were dozens of times larger than him, and their presence was even more terrifying. For a cultivator at the Spirit Sea realm to challenge 10 such giant beasts, a full realm above him, was indeed a shocking sight. But there was no choice. This was what the heavenly sacred palace demanded. To become an outstanding disciple of the Second Holy Temple or even the more prestigious First Holy Temple within a second-grade major sect, one must face such trials. In the midst of countless gazes, the 10 bloodstripe war beasts that had just burst out of the secret cavern and landed were immediately launching their attack. Boom! 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 10 huge black shadows flashed, and the luminous blood stripes on the beasts intensified as they tore towards Wang Lin at the center. Spurt! Spurt! Even though Wang Lin was on guard, he hadn't anticipated that the giant beasts' attacks would be so swift, nor their presence so terrifying. In the blink of an eye, his body was simultaneously lacerated with 10 bloody marks by the beasts. Luckily, Wang Lin, having been the first to be called out by his envoy due to his substantial combat strength, managed to quickly activate his movement technique to dodge the beast's lethal strikes. Otherwise, he would have suffered more than just 10 bloody marks. The giant beasts likely would have eliminated him in one fell swoop. Although this was an entrance examination for new disciples and it wouldn't truly result in their death, the examination area had a life and death protection mechanism that would teleport the disciple out of the combat area once they were judged to be outmatched. To actually be defeated would mean not only escaping death but also possibly sustaining serious injuries during combat. What incredible speed! Not only is there physical strength in their attacks, but also true chi attacks, and it seems there's even a hint of the laws. The other new disciples, watching Wang Lin narrowly evade the 10 giant beasts and emerge with bloody marks, were all shocked, worrying about how they would deal with the bloodstripe war beasts when it was their turn. In the examination area, Wang Lin, who had rapidly dodged the 10 giant beasts' attacks, summoned a black spear into his hand with a flourish of light. This spear was actually a mid-grade treasure. Wielding the spear, Wang Lin's strength surged as he faced the 10 giant beasts charging at him again. His spear tip flashed like lightning, triggering dozens of restrictions on the spear, battling against the 10 giant beasts. Wang Lin, a young genius valued by the envoy of the heavenly sacred palace, held his ground against 10 bloodstripe war beasts, equivalent to the early stages of the rotating core realm, without falling behind, thanks to the enhancement from his mid-grade treasure. Eventually, even before the 10 bloodstripe war beasts could further stimulate their blood stripes to enhance their strength, Wang Lin exerted all his combat power to the limit. With swift thrusts of his spear's glowing tip, he managed to slay all 10 beasts. Having slain 10 bloodstripe war beasts, passed. Wang Lin, you may enter the second trial, Holy Temple Tower. Seeing Wang Lin defeat the 10 bloodstripe war beasts, his envoy smiled and nodded, announcing the result. At this time, even though he had slain the 10 bloodstripe war beasts, Wang Lin was far from unscathed. His body was covered in bloody marks, with several wounds so deep that bone could be seen, a frightening sight. Upon hearing his victory, Wang Lin wiped the sweat from his face and moved to the side to begin healing his injuries, still with a lingering sense of alarm. Next up, Zhao Luo, go for your exam. Zhao Luo, at the late stages of the Spirit Sea realm, will face 10 9-pattern bloodstripe war beasts. After Wang Lin successfully passed the first trial, his envoy called for the next new disciple to take the examination. Perhaps Wang Lin's fortunate victory had made this new disciple somewhat complacent. when a fresh group of 10 bloodstripe war beasts charged out and attacked the new disciple. Even though he had drawn his weapon in advance, he failed to evade the assault of the 10 beasts. With a thunderous crash, this new disciple was grabbed by 2 of the giant beasts and almost torn apart on the spot. The other 8 beasts simultaneously clawed at him, creating 8 dreadful wounds on his body. It was only at the very last moment, with the protective restriction in the examination area flaring up brightly, that the new disciple was transported out of the giant beast's grasp. Otherwise, he might have been killed by the bloodstripe war beasts at first contact. After being teleported out, the new disciple fainted from shock. Within the examination area, the 10 victorious bloodstripe giant beasts roared towards the heavens, beating their powerful, dragon-like chests with streaks of blood luminance, jolting all the new disciples back to reality. These were bloodstripe war beasts. Wang Lin's victory did not guarantee theirs. Even with caution, there was no certainty of victory over these beasts. A moment's carelessness could lead directly to a brutal defeat by these beasts from beyond the barbaric wilderness continent. Unqualified. Failing to pass the first trial, Zhao Luo, Spirit Sea Realm, proceed to train in the 4th Holy Temple. The envoy coldly announced the outcome. Then, other new disciples continued to undergo assessment battles in succession. As the battles went on, the remaining disciples began to realize the bloodstripe war beasts were not easy adversaries. To use them as opponents for the first trial meant very few could indeed overcome them. Among the remaining 6 disciples undergoing assessment, only one from the True Qi realm narrowly claimed victory, while all the others, like Zhao Luo, were thoroughly defeated. And not only were they defeated, but they also sustained serious injuries. Even one disciple, after holding on for a moment, provoked an increase in strength from 10 bloodstripe war beasts, suddenly plunging into a desperate situation. The moment he was transported out, even his Qi channels and Spirit Sea were severely injured. Luckily, a heavenly saint intervened, helping him heal his injuries. Otherwise, his path of cultivation would have likely been completely destroyed after this battle. The lead envoy, who had recruited 8 new disciples, witnessed 6 of them suffer total defeat, disqualifying them from the next round of assessment. They were then distributed among the 3rd Holy Temple, the 4th Holy Temple, and the 5th Holy Temple. Even the 2 who achieved victory did so by the skin of their teeth, their bodies covered in bloody wounds, presenting a pitiable sight. This scene caused the footsteps of numerous new disciples to falter. Many now fully realized that getting into the 2nd Holy Temple or the 1st Holy Temple was indeed no easy feat, and this first challenge of fighting the bloodstripe war beasts was truly a test of strength. Alright, I have 2 here who can proceed to the next round. Next, which envoy's disciple will take the assessment? Though only 2 new disciples had qualified for the 2nd round of assessment, the envoy appeared quite satisfied as he smiled and spoke to the other envoys. After all, battling bloodstripe war beasts was like fighting above one's level. To have 2 new disciples overcoming beasts of a much higher level, even if it was through a hard-won battle, was quite an impressive feat, and naturally, the envoy was pleased. While the envoy was basking in satisfaction, Mu Qingqing spoke out, "Let my side go next. Yi Chen, how about you take on the first challenge?" Mu Qingqing smiled and spoke to Yi Chen within the crowd. Yi Chen nodded and stepped forward. Seeing Mu Qingqing's unwavering confidence, as well as Yi Chen's calm demeanor, the other new disciples turned their gazes toward Yi Chen. The envoys, too, all turned their attention to him. He's the first to challenge? At the early stage of the True Qi realm, he must defeat 10 of the strongest True Qi bloodstripe war beasts. Moreover, he must do it quickly. If he takes too long and the beasts grow even stronger, it would be impossible for him to win. I'm actually curious to see what tricks this young man has up his sleeve. One envoy mused. The envoys remembered how Yi Chen faced them, the Heavenly Saint Realm envoys, without a hint of fear, and they became curious about his methods. Let's hope he's not just talking big. Sister Mu, this being your first time as an envoy, perhaps you don't realize the true strength of the bloodstripe war beasts. Do you think they're that easy to deal with just by observing them? It would be quite the joke if one were to be defeated by the bloodstripe war beasts right off the bat. thought a few heavenly saints. Amid these thoughts, Yi Chen had already entered the assessment area. In the previous assessments, all new disciples had become extremely cautious of the bloodstripe war beasts. Before the beasts even appeared, they had their weapons ready in hand and their chi fully unleashed. But when Yi Chen stepped into the assessment area, his hands were empty, showing no intention of using a weapon. Even when 10-12 pattern bloodstripe giant beasts whose strength had reached the pinnacle of true chi roared and charged at him, Yi Chen did not draw a weapon. He didn't even stir his chi. This situation left everyone stunned. The giant beast has launched an attack. How can he defend without using a weapon or unleashing his chi? It's over. Without defending himself, he's bound to be seriously injured, exclaimed several new disciples, their expressions changing. Has he been scared stiff? A few envoys moved their lips, ready to mock Mu Qingqing for her first disciple's apparent inaction. Just as these envoys were about to speak amid the cries of many new disciples, everyone saw the 10-12 pattern bloodstripe war beasts charging wildly at Yi Chen. Beasts with terrifyingly ferocious chi were all blasted backward and harshly slammed onto the ground, while still at a distance from his body. Looking at these bloodstripe war beasts again, everyone saw an identical sword hole on the forehead of each one. And these 10 bloodstripe giant beasts, struck by the sword hole, were all devoid of any signs of life. They had been directly pierced through and killed. What happened? How did he make his move? He killed the bloodstripe war beasts. The new disciples were utterly dumbfounded. Just a moment ago, they were worried that Yi Chen, with no weapon in hand, would be gravely wounded and defeated by the giant beasts. But in the next moment, the 10 bloodstripe giant beasts were instantaneously knocked down dead. This stark contrast was simply beyond belief for the new disciples. What shocked them even more was that they hadn't seen clearly how Yi Chen had made his move. Even as prodigious disciples, they hadn't been able to discern how the young man in front of them had struck, which was truly inconceivable. Chapter 348 The Drumbeat Unheard for 1,000 Years. The new disciples were extremely shocked, while the 7 heavenly saint realm envoys were utterly stunned. As heavenly saints, they could clearly see the techniques Yi Chen had used. It was precisely because they saw clearly that the shock they felt was even more intense. The heavenly saint envoys even felt 10 strands of killing power sword light condensed to the extreme at the moment Yi Chen made his move. It was these 10 strands of killing power sword light, condensed to the extreme, that instantly slain the 10 bloodstripe war beasts, and the power of the killing power sword light even gave the heavenly saints a sense of a formidable holy art or even the legendary divine arts. They also felt a deadly threat. It was as if the sword light, if it fell upon them, could potentially severely injure even them as early-stage strong practitioners of the heavenly saint realm, unless they used a powerful move to defend themselves. This feeling, of course, greatly surprised the 7 heavenly saints. One must know Yi Chen was still only at the early stage of the rotating pill realm. Even if he were incredibly talented, to be able to battle unbeatable within the rotating pill realm was already unimaginable, let alone posing a threat to early-stage practitioners of the heavenly saint realm. That was utterly inconceivable. The heavenly saints who had been in heavenly sacred palace for hundreds of years had never heard of anyone at the early stage of the rotating pill realm posing a threat to those at the early stage of the heavenly saint realm. After exchanging glances, these 7 great heavenly saints faced Yi Chen with extremely solemn expressions. Even the 3 heavenly saints who had previously thought of teaching Yi Chen a lesson no longer had the slightest intention of underestimating him.
No joke.
They were only at the early stage of the heavenly saint realm. Even if they were stronger than Yi Chen now, they were many years older than him. Given Yi Chen's current cultivation level at the early stage of the rotating pill realm, his surpassing them in the future was absolutely a certainty. Not a single heavenly saint would choose to make an enemy of such a talent for no reason. The changing expressions of the 7 heavenly saint realm envoys, seen by all the new disciples, made them feel even more impressed with Yi Chen's immense power. Countless eyes were sizing up Yi Chen, recalling the introduction Mu Qingqing had given when Yi Chen entered the assessment area. From the southern territory, named Yi Chen. Now, a significant figure has come to heavenly sacred palace. First Holy Temple, with his strength, he can definitely break into the strongest First Holy Temple. In the future, he might even ascend to practice on Heavenly Saint Mountain. The new disciples discussed animatedly. In the area for new disciples selected by Mu Qingqing, Jiang Yao looked at Yichun, who was walking out from the assessment area, and her delicate little face broke into a sweet smile. As the person closest to Yichun, the young girl naturally knew what techniques Yichun had just used. Yichun said that after entering the rotating pill realm, he has been practicing the sword techniques and divine arts from the Baiming secret tome, which he obtained from the falling artifact sword, the third layer, the grand 5 elements sword light. It seems that during these tens of days of rushing to the heavenly sacred palace, his grand 5 elements sword light has already been cultivated to a very powerful extent. Jiang Yao knew the origin of Yi Chen's techniques, but other people didn't understand as clearly. Lu Qingmei at this moment was so astonished that her rosy little mouth gaped open. She still remembered that back on Immeasurable Mountain at Great U City Square, Yichun, despite being able to suppress 3 supreme rotating pill-strong practitioners, couldn't achieve a one-shot kill. How much time has passed since then? And Yichun was now battling even more formidable 12-pattern Bloodstripe war beasts. 10 of these Bloodstripe war beasts were no match for a single move from Yichun. This kind of progress truly shocked Lu Qingmei. After stepping into the rotating pill realm, Yichun has undergone a qualitative transformation. Now, he has truly reached a level where even I have to look up to him, just like Sister Jiang Yao. Lu Qingmei murmured to herself. At this moment, the top and third-ranked contestants of the Hidden Dragon list, Xiao Chun and Luo Lai, were completely at a loss for words. They were still worried about their upcoming battles with the Bloodstripe war beasts, but Yichun, who had come with them to the heavenly sacred palace, had effortlessly and cleanly dealt with the Bloodstripe war beasts. Even more so, both felt that even if the Bloodstripe war beasts were stronger, Yichun could still kill them with ease. Looking at the new disciples in front of them who had failed the first challenge, and then at the 2 new disciples who had won but barely, comparing them with Yichun who didn't have a single wound on his body and not even a drop of blood, the sense of difference made Xiao Chun and Luo Lai fall completely into admiration for Yichun. All the expressions everyone wore fell into Mu Qingqing's view, making her already smiling eyes, sharp as a little fox's, shine with even more laughter. Especially the reactions of those 7 Heavenly Saint Realm envoys, that really gave Mu Qingqing a good reason to gloat. Previously, when Mu Qingqing was an envoy, these 7 envoys often spoke ill of her behind her back, saying she took the position of envoy only because of her grandfather's name and that she couldn't select any capable new disciples. This time, Yichun has truly vindicated her. How about it? Isn't Yichun impressive? Mu Qingqing's wily eyes were sparkling as she smiled at the other 7 Heavenly Saint Realm envoys. Impressive. Indeed impressive. Sister Mu, you truly picked a peerless talent for the Heavenly Sacred Palace this time, the 7 Heavenly Saint Realm envoys said with a wry smile and nodded their heads. A peerless talent? Mu Qingqing chuckled softly, glancing back at Jiang Yao. Not just one. Sister Jiang Yao is equally formidable as Yichun. This time, it's likely that the sacred shock drum at our heavenly sacred palace, which hasn't been sounded for many years, will be sounded anew. Another formidable expert? Jiang Yao? When Mu Qingqing turned her gaze to Jiang Yao, towards that stunningly beautiful girl they had all been paying close attention to, the 7 heavenly saints were once again startled. Could this fairy-like, beautiful girl possess powerful methods too? The emergence of such a strong figure as Yichun had already been a rare sight within Heavenly Sacred Palace in 1,000 years. And now the appearance of a powerful young lady was even rarer for the Heavenly Sacred Palace. Upon hearing Mu Qingqing mention the sacred shock drum, these 7 Heavenly Saint envoys knew what that signified. The sacred shock drum was a treasured artifact hidden in the Hidden Dragon Hall, where the assessment of new disciples of the Heavenly Sacred Palace took place. It would only sound if there were 2 or more absolutely extraordinary new talents emerging among the new disciples. When this sacred shock drum sounded, not only would the 5 holy temples tremble, but even the numerous heavenly saints cultivating on Heavenly Saint Mountain located behind the 5 holy temples of the Heavenly Sacred Palace including early-stage Heavenly Saint Realm experts, mid-stage Heavenly Saint Realm experts, and even the 3 palace masters of the late-stage Heavenly Saint Realm, could hear the drumming sounds of this sacred shock drum. The sacred shock drum symbolized that it had shocked the heavenly saints. After the sacred shock drum sounded, all the heavenly saints who had the time would gather at the Holy Temple Tower, the location of the second phase of the assessment, to observe the genius going through the challenge. Another meaning was that the few talents who could trigger the sounding of the heavenly saint drum would catch the attention of all the heavenly saints. If they performed well at the second checkpoint, it might even result in mid-stage Heavenly Saint Realm experts or one of the 3 great palace masters taking them as disciples personally. This was definitely an event that could shake the entire Heavenly Sacred Palace. However, the sacred shock drum had not been heard for many years. Even when absolute geniuses had emerged over the years, they were often alone. Such geniuses would ultimately report directly to the powerhouses on Heavenly Saint Mountain, informing them about these talents. In the entire history of the Heavenly Sacred Palace, the sacred shock drum had truly resounded only 8 times. Moreover, those 8 masters, aside from those who had fallen, all later became extremely powerful Heavenly Saint Realm experts, with 4 of them being directly taken in as disciples by the palace masters of the Heavenly Sacred Palace. Upon hearing Mu Qingqing say that the beautiful girl in front of her, in cooperation with Yi Chun, could make the sacred shock drum sound again, the 7 Heavenly Saint envoys were naturally astonished. Seeing these envoys still somewhat incredulous, Mu Qingqing smiled and said to Zhang Yao, "Zhang Yao, it's all up to you now. If we can stimulate the sacred shock drum to sound, it might catch the attention of the heavenly saints on Heavenly Saint Mountain for you and Yi Chun, bringing new opportunities." New opportunities? Zhang Yao's eyes brightened. She and Yi Chun came to Heavenly Sacred Palace for cultivation in search of opportunities. Whether it was to be prepared for the potential outbreak of a major war between the Southern Territory and the Western Wilderness, or to reach the Heavenly Saint Realm as quickly as possible so that they could return to the minor spiritual realm to look for the Phoenix clan members, both she and Yi Chun needed to become stronger. If this entry-level assessment could trigger new opportunities, she would naturally strive for it. Even if it wasn't for her own sake, for the sake of Yi Chun, she would fight for this opportunity. With this in mind, Zhang Yao nodded to Mu Qingqing. Then, taking Yi Chen's hand, who had just walked out from the assessment area, entered the assessment area as well. Once Zhang Yao stood in the assessment area, the 7 Heavenly Saint Realm envoys were fully alert. If this young lady, coupled with Yi Chen's previous assessment, could truly stimulate the sacred shock drum to sound, then their selection of new disciples this time would indeed cause a major sensation in the Heavenly Sacred Palace. Can the sacred shock drum really sound? The heavenly saints looked towards the inexplicable array patterns on the dome of the War Beast Hall. While the other new disciples did not know what the sacred shock drum they were talking about was, just by seeing the serious expressions of the envoys and hearing about the opportunities that could make the heavenly saints on Heavenly Saint Mountain take notice from Mu Qingqing, their hearts also started pounding fiercely. All eyes eventually gathered on Zhang Yao. Just at that moment, the 10 blood-striped war beasts that Zhang Yao was about to battle roared as they burst out from the secret chamber of the War Beast Hall. Zhang Yao, like Yi Chen, was also at the early stage of the rotating pill realm. The opponents she faced were also 10 blood-striped war beasts that had reached the supreme level of the rotating pill realm with 12 stripes. Before stepping into the rotating pill realm, Zhang Yao could already defeat the 3 supreme rotating pills with a single move. Now that she had entered the rotating pill realm, the 10 12-striped blood-stripe war beasts, which were extremely difficult for others to deal with, posed no difficulty to her at all. In the instant when the 10 blood-stripe war beasts roared towards Zhang Yao, with countless gazes watching Zhang Yao and the 10 blood-stripe war beasts, Mu Qingqing revealed her utter confidence in Zhang Yao, and Yi Chun was also watching Zhang Yao with a light smile. At that moment, Zhang Yao's fair and slender fingers lightly tapped towards the roaring blood-striped war beasts charging at her. PFF, 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 PFF. 10 icy blue flashes of lightning instantly pierced towards the 10 blood-striped war beasts. In the blink of an eye, the 10 icy blue flashes of lightning had already pierced into the bodies of the 10 blood-striped war beasts. In the instant the icy blue lightning entered the bodies of the 10 blood-stripe war beasts. These roaring creatures charging towards Jiang Yao were all abruptly immobilized in midair, and in the next moment, they disintegrated into ash. With a single move, Jiang Yao had directly obliterated the 10 supreme-level rotating pill bloodstripe war beasts, leaving not even their remains. No one, neither the new disciples nor even the 7 heavenly saint envoys, had anticipated this outcome. And before they could even regain their composure, they heard the resounding thunderous drumming that shook the entire War Beast Hall and the Hidden Dragon Hall, resonating through the area of the 5 great holy temples and even deep within Heavenly Saint Mountain. Boom! 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 One drum beat after another echoed out from the War Beast Hall, spread through the Hidden Dragon Hall, reached the area of the 5 great holy temples of the Heavenly Sacred Palace, and even penetrated the depths of Heavenly Saint Mountain. This was the sound of the sacred shock drum that had not been heard for nearly 1,000 years in the Heavenly Sacred Palace. Chapter 349, The 3 Palace Masters. Inside the War Beast Hall, the envoys and all the new disciples were completely stunned as they watched the 10 blood-striped war beasts turn to ash and heard the continuous booming of the sacred shock drum. No one had expected that Jiang Yao, this breathtakingly beautiful girl, truly possessed techniques as formidable as Yi Chen's. The sacred shock drum really resounded. My heavens! The sacred shock drum is booming loudly. After 968 years, the sacred shock drum has sounded again. Since joining the Heavenly Sacred Palace, I've never heard the sacred shock drum. It's only been recorded in the scriptures of the Heavenly Sacred Palace. And now, today, I've actually witnessed the sacred shock drum sound again. Every one of the 7 great Heavenly Saint envoys was filled with disbelief. Meanwhile, Yi Chen, Jiang Yao, and the other new disciples all looked up at the dome of the War Beast Hall, where they saw mysterious formations etched into the ceiling initiating the drumming of the sacred shock drum. Actually, it wasn't just the dome of the War Beast Hall. Within the main hall of the entire Hidden Dragon Hall, where the assessments were held, and the ceilings of various side halls, mysterious formation lines were activated, letting the drumming of the sacred shock drum resound. The entire Hidden Dragon Hall was echoing with the sound of the sacred shock drum. The people within the Hidden Dragon Hall were immersed in the thunderous roar of the sacred shock drum. Outside the Hidden Dragon Hall, 5 holy temple regions. What is this sound? As the boom 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 of the drum continued, the older disciples of the Heavenly Sacred Palace who were cultivating in the 5 holy temple regions were all startled. Everyone searched for the source of the sound. When they sensed that this noise originated from the Hidden Dragon Hall on the very edge of the Heavenly Sacred Palace and saw strange auras of light emerging from the entire backyard of the Hidden Dragon Hall, all disciples of the Heavenly Sacred Palace thought of an event recorded in the sect scriptures. This event was precisely the mysterious legend associated with the sacred shock drum. It's the sound of the sacred shock drum. Hidden Dragon Hall, the assessment of new disciples, triggered the loud booming of the sacred shock drum. These days are the time for the envoys to bring new disciples back to the sect. Could it be that this time they have selected several exceptionally powerful new disciples? With this thought, disciples who were cultivating in the various holy temple regions couldn't help but fly at top speed toward the Hidden Dragon Hall. From the True Qi realm cultivation area of the 5th holy temple, which was closest to the Hidden Dragon Hall, flying demonic beasts carried True Qi realm disciples as they flew out from various main halls of the 5th holy temple and soared towards the sky above the backyard of the Hidden Dragon Hall. In the backyard of the Hidden Dragon Hall, a 9-story treasured pagoda stood proudly. This pagoda was what the new disciples had to face after overcoming their first challenge of battling the blood-striped war beasts. It was the second round of the assessment, known as the Holy Temple Tower. The strange auras of light that had emerged previously from the backyard of the Hidden Dragon Hall were in fact emanating from the top of the Holy Temple Tower after the sacred shock drum had sounded. Not only the disciples from the 5th Holy Temple were gathering towards the Holy Temple Tower, but the Spirit Sea Realm and Rotating Pill Realm disciples from the 4th and 3rd Holy Temples were similarly taking flight from their respective temples and zooming towards the Holy Temple Tower. And within the deeper regions of the Heavenly Sacred Palace of the 2nd Holy Temple and the 1st Holy Temple, There were likewise countless sounds of flight. The second holy temple and the first holy temple are gathering spots for the most talented disciples below the heavenly saint realm within the heavenly sacred palace, and at this moment, all of these disciples were flying toward the holy temple tower while showing strange expressions. Who could have caused the sacred shock drum to sound? It looks like our second holy temple and first holy temple are about to welcome a few genius new disciples. The old disciples' hierarchy is going to be broken. Among the flying crowd, a young man in dark clothes was frowning deeply. This young man in dark clothes was none other than Yin Shenjue, the most formidable disciple from the 10 great demonic sects of the Western Wilderness training in the heavenly sacred palace. He was at the late stages of the rotating pill realm and ranked fourth among the countless talented disciples of the heavenly sacred palace in the heavenly Saint True Dragon ranking. At this moment, Yin Shenjue had a bad premonition. He felt that the ringing of the sacred shock drum might indeed be related to Yichun, the new disciple from the southern territory who was about to enter the heavenly sacred palace, as mentioned in the messages he received. If the sacred shock drum rings truly because of Yichun, if Yichun draws the attention of the formidable saints from heavenly Saint Mountain, that would be troublesome. If it's really him, then I have to hasten my plans, otherwise, the Western Wilderness will face a great problem. In the end, a bone-chilling coldness radiated from the depths of Yin Shenjue's sinister eyes. Disciples of the 5 holy temples stirred upon hearing the sound, while from within the deepest parts of heavenly Saint Mountain, silhouettes of powerful figures seated in meditation all turned their gazes towards Hidden Dragon Hall at the outermost perimeter of the heavenly sacred palace. Hidden Dragon Hall? The place for new disciples' assessment. To think a new disciple has successfully caused the sacred shock drum to ring. It seems that we at the heavenly sacred palace have brought back some formidable geniuses this time. In one of the mountain ranges on heavenly Saint Mountain, 5 saints with exceptionally strong presences looked at each other and all revealed a hint of a smile. In their smiles, their figures vanished simultaneously from the mountain range. Their voices echoed throughout the mountains. Us old fellows from Shatua Mountain have yet to find apprentices to our liking. Let's see if anyone impresses us this time. Feeling the aura of these 5 saints, it was evident that all of them were of the mid-phase in the heavenly saint realm.
Sacred shock drum.
If I remember correctly, it should have been 968 years since we last heard the sound of the sacred shock drum. In the deepest part of a mountain range on heavenly Saint Mountain, an elder in black robes also turned his gaze towards Hidden Dragon Hall. The last time the sacred shock drum sounded, I accepted my second disciple, and now, that disciple is already a mid-phase power in the heavenly saint realm. This time let's see if my third disciple will appear. After muttering to himself, the elder reached out towards the void with a large hand and instantly, a rift in the void appeared. With a move, he stepped directly into the void and vanished. If any of the saints on heavenly Saint Mountain were to see this elder, they would surely recognize him as one of the 3 most powerful beings in the heavenly sacred palace, a late-phase eminent personality and one of the 3 great palace masters, the Skyscraper Palace Master. As the Skyscraper Palace Master traveled through the void to investigate Hidden Dragon Hall, in another realm deep within the same mountain range, another elder was similarly leading 2 youths through a void rift. This elder, dressed in light blue garments and radiating vigor, strangely resembled Mu Qingqing in his facial features. As this elder traveled through the void towards Hidden Dragon Hall, he said to the 2 youths beside him with a laugh, "My granddaughter has returned as an envoy this time. Just a couple of days ago, she sent me a message saying she would let me truly appreciate her discerning eye. Could it be that the ringing of the sacred shock drum is caused by the new disciple she has brought back?" As the elder spoke with a fully content smile, the 2 youths beside him also laughed. Certainly, Sister Qingqing wouldn't act without certainty. It seems this time she has truly picked a formidable genius. It's quite likely related to the youngster named Yichun, whom we've been hearing about in the heavenly sacred palace recently. While speaking, the 3 had already completely entered the rift in the void, and the void rift behind them closed up once more. If anyone were to recognize these 3 figures, they would certainly know that these 2 youths were the rising powers of the heavenly sacred palace from the past several centuries, also having been selected during the great ringing of the sacred shock drum. They were two truly supreme geniuses who dominated the very top of the Heavenly Saint True Dragon ranking of countless saints on Heavenly Saint Mountain. And the elder beside the two youths was another one of the three great palace masters in the Heavenly Sacred Palace, Palace Master Mu Yao. From their conversation, it was evident that this Mu Yao was none other than Mu Qingqing's grandfather. Mu Qingqing's grandfather was actually one of the three great palace masters of the Heavenly Sacred Palace. Chapter 350 Holy Temple Tower. The three great palace masters of the Heavenly Sacred Palace, with the most powerful palace master Yuan Li having always closely followed Jiang Yao, secretly protecting her. And now, because the sacred shock drum had been activated, and its sound had spread throughout the entire Heavenly Sacred Palace, the other two great palace masters, Skyscraper Palace Master and Mu Yao Palace Master, also turned their attention to Yi Chen's group of newly admitted disciples, rushing towards the Hidden Dragon Hall. While countless disciples of the Heavenly Sacred Palace and the Heavenly Saints on Heavenly Saint Mountain were heading to the Holy Temple Tower of the Hidden Dragon Hall, in the deepest part of the vast territory of the Heavenly Sacred Palace, within a blue ice lake spanning 10,000 meters in a valley, the Ice Blue Phoenix, which even Palace Master Yuan Li had once respectfully addressed as a predecessor, once again rose from within the lake. Princess Yao. At this moment, the divine eyes of the Ice Blue Phoenix, traversing the void, directly gazed upon Jiang Yao in the Hidden Dragon Hall. From its eyes, tears began to fall one after another. 17 years ago, it was this very phoenix that had carried Jiang Yao, evading the pursuit of the Vermilion Bird Clan and the Flying Spirit Clan, and had fled to this lower realm. True gods of the minor spirit realm could not easily descend to lower planes like the barbaric wilderness continent, for they would be repelled by the combined forces of the entire continent. For 17 years, due to the rebounding injuries from forcefully shuttling through the void, and even more so due to the fear of exposing her identity and putting Jiang Yao in danger, the Ice Blue Phoenix had sent Jiang Yao to Fairy Gala, sending her far away to the south. Throughout these years, it had quietly watched over Jiang Yao, protecting her. However, it had been 17 years, and it had never been so close to Jiang Yao, never like this. Now, at last, its powerful Princess Yao, relying on her own strength, had come to the Heavenly Sacred Palace, and upon arrival, she was able to trigger an upheaval throughout the palace. Finally, she had come back to its side once again. This, of course, made the Ice Blue Phoenix's tears flow down. These were tears of excitement. These were even more so, tears of pride. Its Princess Yao, coming from the divine clans of the upper realm, wherever she went, was always that strong. Princess? The Ice Blue Phoenix looked at Jiang Yao. This time, you have once again returned to my side. I will definitely protect you well, support you well. When you're powerful enough to protect yourself, we will together return to the minor spirit realm, return to our clan. Amid tears, the Ice Blue Phoenix spoke with determination. As countless gazes converged on the Hidden Dragon Hall, and even as many heavenly saints' divine senses probed into the War Beast Hall, the first stage of the assessment within the War Beast Hall still continued. Although no one directly entered the War Beast Hall to observe the assessment, powerful and immense pressures kept probing within the War Beast Hall. From the outside, one could see densely packed figures surrounding the War Beast Hall. All the new disciples inside the War Beast Hall knew that because of the ringing of the sacred shock drum, the War Beast Hall had caught the attention of the entire Heavenly Sacred Palace. They were undergoing the assessment under the watchful eye of the entire Heavenly Sacred Palace. At this thought, many new disciples even became so excited and nervous that their bodies started to tremble uncontrollably. The first stage of the assessment continued. After Yi Chen and Jiang Yao created unbelievable performance records in the assessment, the three top rankers of the Hidden Dragon list, Xiao Chun, Lu Qingmei, and Luo Lai, took their turns to undergo the test. As a result, both Xiao Chun and Luo Lai were defeated, unable to proceed to the second stage of the assessment, and were assigned to the third holy temple. However, Lu Qingmei, with the initial realm of the rotating pill, successfully challenged 10 strong rotating pill stage bloodstripe war beasts, and also made it into the second stage of the assessment. Although Lu Qingmei's performance was not as dazzling as Yi Chun and Zhang Yao, and she sustained some minor injuries during the battle, her performance was already enough to catch the attention of many heavenly saints. And among everyone, those who paid the most attention to Lu Qingmei were Zhang Yao and the Ice Blue Phoenix, because both Zhang Yao and the Ice Blue Phoenix noticed shadows of the Divine Phoenix Clan's techniques in Lu Qingmei's moves. Although it wasn't the Divine Phoenix Clan's divine arts, it seemed to be modified from their techniques. A girl from the barbaric wilderness continent, bearing traces of the Divine Phoenix Clan's techniques from the minor spirit realm in her own skills, certainly surprised Zhang Yao and the Ice Blue Phoenix immensely. When Zhang Yao sent a message to inquire with Lu Qingmei also smiled back at Zhang Yao, sharing some information with her. Lu Qingmei told Zhang Yao that her techniques were learned from a woman who had come to her family in the Polar Star Archipelago of the Eastern region 10 years ago, whom she called her aunt. Lu Qingmei also told Zhang Yao that her participation in the Central region and efforts to join the Heavenly Sacred Palace this time were to gain an opportunity to go to the other 32 continents, to find some medicinal materials for her aunt. Her aunt, who taught her the techniques, was seriously injured when she arrived at the Polar Star Archipelago. Hearing this news, the Phoenix spirit within Zhang Yao's Azure Mansion even had a premonition that the woman Lu Qingmei spoke of could really be from the Divine Phoenix Clan. The reason for the injury was likely because she was forcefully descending from the minor spirit realm to find Zhang Yao. That's how she got the injuries. With this possibility in mind, Zhang Yao and the Phoenix spirit both became incredibly excited. If what Lu Qingmei said was true, then the woman who might be related to the Divine Phoenix Clan had arrived at the Polar Star Archipelago severely injured 10 years ago. That would mean this woman might know what happened after the grand battle between the three great divine clans in the Divine Phoenix City, and she might be aware of the current situation of the Divine Phoenix Clan. Thinking of this, Zhang Yao couldn't help but yearn to meet this woman. However, having just entered the Heavenly Sacred Palace and still in the middle of the entrance assessment, Zhang Yao could only suppress her urge. She continued to communicate with Lu Qingmei via spiritual message to learn more about the woman while waiting for the assessment to end, hoping for an opportunity to go to the Polar Star Archipelago afterward. While Zhang Yao was concerned about the woman, the Ice Blue Phoenix sent a spiritual message directly to an unseen figure floating above the hidden dragon hall. Yuan Li. Once the assessments are over, bring her and Princess Yao to me. Between the transmissions from the Ice Blue Phoenix, it could be seen that the most powerful palace master Yuan Li of the Heavenly Sacred Palace was hidden in this expanse of space. The disturbance caused by Lu Qingmei was known only to a few. Meanwhile, the assessment within the Beast Hall continued. After the assessment of the new disciples selected by Mu Qingqing was completed, the new disciples chosen by the other envoys were assessed one after another. Out of the 58 new disciples who entered the Heavenly Sacred Palace, 46 were eliminated in the first part of the assessment and were assigned to the 5th Holy Temple, the 4th Holy Temple, and the 3rd Holy Temple. Only Yi Chun, Zhang Yao, Lu Qingmei, and 9 others successfully advanced to the second part, earning the chance to enter the 2nd Holy Temple and the 1st Holy Temple. Among the 12 who passed the first part of the assessment, Yi Chun and Zhang Yao's performances were the most outstanding. Besides them, a young man at the mid-stage of the rotating pill also showed exceptional performance, though not as great as Yi Chun and Zhang Yao. The rest, like Lu Qingmei, were fairly good, while the others achieved miserable victories against the Bloodstripe war beasts. However, even a miserable victory was significant, as among the new disciples selected by the 8 great envoys this time, having 12 advance to the second part was an excellent result in recent years. Furthermore, among them, Yi Chun and Zhang Yao had even triggered the sacred shock drum, a phenomenon that hadn't occurred in nearly 1,000 years. As the first part of the assessment ended, everyone outside the hidden dragon hall turned their eyes to the Holy Temple Tower, standing in the courtyard behind the hall. This was where the second part of the new disciples' entry assessment would take place. Yi Chun, Zhang Yao, and the other 10 disciples who had passed the first part, as well as the new disciples who failed, were led by the envoys out of the hidden dragon hall and to the side of the Holy Temple Tower. Who is it that triggered the sacred shock drum? As Yi Chun and the other 12 new disciples who had passed the first part arrived outside the hidden dragon hall, all gazes were focused on them. The heavenly saints who had investigated the following assessments were also concentrating on Yichun, Zhang Yao, and a few others who had taken the assessments earlier. Since they had witnessed the subsequent assessments, the one who triggered the sacred shock drum was certainly among these early assessors. The majority of gazes fell on Yichun and Zhang Yao. Not only because of Zhang Yao's stunning figure and Yichun's refined and tall demeanor, but also because they were profoundly distinct from all other new disciples. The discerning eyes of the multitude of heavenly saints, as well as the senior disciples of the heavenly sacred palace, could immediately tell that these two young disciples were likely the strongest amongst the newcomers, and they were the ones who had triggered the sacred shock drum. Among the countless gazes directed at Yichun and Zhang Yao, Yin Qianjie from the western wilderness's 10 great demon sects narrowed his eyes when he looked at the pair, hiding profound and inscrutable intentions within. It wasn't just these countless people sizing up Yichun and the others. The 12 new disciples who had passed the first part also raised their heads to look at the dense crowd suspended in the void. In this crowd were senior disciples of the heavenly sacred palace from the true Qi realm, the spirit sea realm, the rotating pill realm, and even heavenly saints cultivating on Heavenly Saint Mountain. Among these saints were over 30 auras belonging to the mid-stage of the heavenly saint realm. Yichun and the others speculated that perhaps even the 3 late-stage heavenly saint realm palace masters of the heavenly sacred palace might be watching them from an unseen location. With this thought, all 12 disciples who had advanced to the second part were filled with surging emotions. Even Yichun and Zhang Yao felt a wave of excitement. After all, what they faced now were countless senior disciples and heavenly saints of the entire heavenly sacred palace. There were as many as 7,000 to 8,000 senior disciples, and the heavenly saints numbered over 1,000. This was the central region of the barbaric wilderness continent, the power of the mighty second-tier sect, the heavenly sacred palace. Such an overwhelming number of strong individuals was truly awe-inspiring. Thankfully, the heavenly sacred palace did not meddle in the affairs of the barbaric wilderness continent. For if all these heavenly saints were mobilized, it would be difficult for anyone on the barbaric wilderness continent to withstand this incredible force. Amidst so many watchful eyes, the 12 new disciples who had passed the first part couldn't help but feel excited, unable to stop their breath from unconsciously tightening. In the end, their gazes all fixed on the place of their next assessment, the Holy Temple Tower, the 9-tiered pagoda towering in the courtyard behind the hidden Dragon Hall. It was within this Holy Temple Tower that they would launch their challenge under the watchful eyes of countless onlookers, to earn their place in the first Holy Temple, to gain the attention of powerful heavenly saints, and to establish their footing in the heavenly sacred palace by showing their true strength. Chapter 351. Storming the Tower. Seeing the 12 disciples who had passed the first trial staring intently at the Holy Temple Tower, the leading messenger bowed to the countless heavenly saints observing the assessment in the void, and then said to Yichun and the others, "By the look of you all, you are ready to take on the second trial. Now, let me explain the rules of the second trial, Holy Temple Tower, to you." The rules of the Holy Temple Tower's assessment. This was related to whether they could enter the first Holy Temple, whether they could conquer the countless old disciples and heavenly saints watching the assessment. Hearing the messenger's words, Yichun, Zhang Yao, Lu Qingmei, and the other 12 all pricked up their ears and listened carefully. The heavenly saint messenger continued, "The Holy Temple Tower is divided into 9 levels. However, your trial will take place in the first 3 levels because no matter how powerful or talented you are, it's impossible for you to get through the 3rd level." Buzz. This assertion from the messenger startled all the new disciples. The statement that no one could pass the 3rd level no matter how strong they were was utterly confident, clearly indicating that the 3rd level of the Holy Temple Tower was an insurmountable gulf they could not cross at present. Seeing that some of the new disciples still looked somewhat disbelieving, the messenger shook his head and said, "Not to mention you, it's been over 500 years since I reached the early stage of Heavenly Saint, and I can barely get through the 3rd level of the Holy Temple Tower, not to mention the 4th level. Moreover, of the entire 9 levels of this Holy Temple Tower, no one in our entire heavenly sacred palace has conquered them all." Whoosh! If they were shocked before, this declaration from the messenger deeply shook even Yichun. The fact that the leading heavenly saint messenger could barely get past the third level and was utterly unable to get through the fourth underscored the difficulty of the third and fourth levels of the Holy Temple Tower. And the messenger added that no one in the entire heavenly sacred palace had completed all 9 levels. The heavenly sacred palace had 3 late-stage heavenly saint realm palace masters, indicating that even existences at the later stage of the heavenly saint realm couldn't surpass all 9 levels of the Holy Temple Tower. If the Holy Temple Tower was so formidable, what sort of origin did it have? The Holy Temple Tower is a wondrous object obtained by our great palace master Yuan Li of the heavenly sacred palace when he visited the minor spirit realm from a mysterious legacy site. It is said that this tower was crafted by an even greater being, the legendary Void Sky True God. Once someone can pass through all 9 levels of the Holy Temple Tower, that would certainly indicate possessing combat power on par with the Void Sky True God. Currently, Palace Master Yuan Li holds the record of our entire heavenly sacred palace for venturing into this tower, having reached the 8th level. Our other 2 palace masters, Skyscraper Palace Master and Mu Yao Palace Master, have both reached the 7th level. Apart from the 3 palace masters, no one else has set foot on the 6th level or above. The words of the messenger not only caught the attention of Yi Chen and Zhang Yao, along with the other 12 new disciples, but also drew the gaze of the countless heavenly saints towards this 9-level pagoda. Indeed, just as the messenger had said, the Holy Temple Tower was a place of myth. It is rumored that the name Holy Temple Tower was adopted, and even the reason why the training places for the talented disciples were later divided into 5 holy temples was because the legacy site where Palace Master Yuan Li obtained this tower was related to the words Holy Temple. The 9th level of the Holy Temple Tower was an existence that the heavenly saints of the entire Heavenly Saint Mountain looked up to. Let alone the 9th level, even the 8th or 7th levels were places where only the 3 palace masters had set foot. Countless heavenly saints of the Heavenly Saint Mountain were still attempting to break through to the 6th level, with many of them stuck at the 5th and 4th levels. Indeed, venturing through the Holy Temple Tower is extremely difficult. In our first Holy Temple, among the top 10 powerhouses on the Holy Temple leaderboard, none have passed the 3rd level. In the area where the older disciples were, those from the first Holy Temple also sighed and spoke up. Some older disciples looked directly at Yi Chen and the 12 others and said, "These new disciples, let alone the later levels, probably can't even get past the 3rd level. If they manage to reach the 2nd level, that would certainly be impressive." Amidst the crowd's discussions and the shock of Yi Chen and the other 12, the messenger went on, "Well, we have digressed a bit about the Holy Temple Tower. Now, let's talk about the 2nd trial's assessment. As I've already said, it's extremely difficult to navigate through the Holy Temple Tower. Only those with true early-stage Heavenly Saint Realm strength can set foot on the 4th floor. And your goal is to breach the first 3 floors. In the 2nd test, if you can only stay on the 1st floor, then you will all be assigned to the 2nd Holy Temple. If you can break through to the 2nd floor, then you will be eligible to enter the 1st Holy Temple, and as long as a heavenly saint recommends you, you can go there to cultivate. Once you break through to the 3rd floor, you will come directly under the watchful eyes of the heavenly saints of Heavenly Saint Mountain. Any of the heavenly saints there can take you on as disciples and impart the cultivation insights of a heavenly saint. Even if they don't take disciples, as long as you perform strongly enough, there will be heavenly saints who will reward you. As for how to navigate each floor, it's simple. You will have only half an hour to enter each level, and within that half hour, you need to kill 100 tower war beasts. Kill enough war beasts and you succeed. Fail to kill enough, and you're eliminated. In the 2nd test for the new disciples assessment, reaching the 2nd floor grants the qualification to proceed to the 1st Holy Temple, while reaching the 3rd floor earns the possibility of being rewarded by a heavenly saint. Within half an hour, one must slay 100 tower war beasts. The envoy explained the rules of the 2nd test clearly and precisely. Yi Chen, Zhang Yao, and the other 10 new disciples all knew that since the Holy Temple Tower was the venue for the 2nd test, the tower war beasts inside would undoubtedly be even more fearsome than the 1st test's bloodstripe war beasts. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so difficult to make it through the tower. All right, Now enter the tower and begin your assessment. Just like in the first test, there are protective restrictions inside the tower. If you encounter an insurmountable life or death danger, the Holy Temple Tower will directly transport you out. Remember, to advance to the next floor, you must kill 100 war beasts within half an hour. Otherwise, you fail the assessment. Now, go in and undertake your assessment. Boom! As soon as the envoy finished speaking, the massive door to the first floor of the Holy Temple Tower burst open, and a roaring sound emerged from within, as if there was an independent world inside. Looking at the open door to the first floor of the Holy Temple Tower, Yi Chun no longer hesitated. He nodded to Zhang Yao, Lu Qingmei, and the others, and then the 12 of them, under the gaze of thousands, shot into the door like lightning, entering the Holy Temple Tower. Once all 12 had gone in the void outside the Holy Temple Tower, several mid-stage heavenly Saint Realm beings waved their hands, and suddenly, a series of huge screens appeared in the higher reaches of the void. On these giant screens appeared the images of Yi Chun, Zhang Yao, and the other new disciples within the Holy Temple Tower. All the heavenly saints of Heavenly Saint Mountain who came to observe the assessment of the new disciples raised their heads to watch these giant screens. So this is the first floor of the Holy Temple Tower? At this moment, Yi Chun had already entered the tower and looked around at the space he was in. This was an illusory yet vast space, tens of thousands of zhang in diameter. Upon entering, only Yi Chun was in this space. Zhang Yao and the others were not there. Obviously, at this point, the 12 new disciples had been separated, each facing the assessment alone. Just as Yi Chun was assessing this space, Zhang Yao, Lu Qingmei, and the others were also in identical spaces, similarly observing their surroundings. At that time, a thump, thump, thump of drum beats sounded inside the spaces where the 12 new disciples were. After 9 drum beats echoed through the space, a corner of the space they were in suddenly glowed brightly, followed by thunderous roars of war beasts that resounded through the air. In an instant, countless war beasts surged towards where the new disciples were standing in the assessment space. When Yi Chen's divine sense swept over these numerous war beasts, his expression changed. In the assessment space of the first floor of the Holy Temple Tower, the war beasts racing towards him were like voracious dragons, and what was more terrifying was that there were well over 300 of them, each one's combat power reaching the peak level of the rotating pill stage. In the first test against Bloodstripe war beasts, Yi Chen had only fought against 10 rotating pill stage Bloodstripe war beasts. And now, he was expected to confront over 300 peak rotating pill stage dragon war beasts all at once, and he was supposed to kill more than 100 of them within half an hour. Indeed, as the envoy said, the Holy Temple Tower was indeed terrifying, with the difficulty of just the first level being shockingly high. Chapter 352 4 People. As Yi Chun was reflecting, the more than 300 supreme rotating pill Jiao dragon battle beasts had already completely engulfed his figure. With continuous cultivation, a Jiao dragon can transform into a true dragon. At this moment, although they had not yet reached the combat power of true dragons, their hundreds of zhang-long bodies and those 5 to 8 zhang-long talons sharp as steel hooks were exceedingly terrifying. As they surged forward, a flick of these Jiao dragon battle beasts' tails would crack the ground with gigantic fissures, and their claws forcefully striking the ground would even excavate huge pits. Adding to that their roaring and howling, Yi Chun seemed to be facing not a group of war beasts trapped in the Holy Temple Tower, but exotic beasts that dominated the barbarian wilderness. If it were any other rotating pill, even a powerful one, facing this dense mass of exotic beasts that had completely overwhelmed them, they would be trembling with fear. However, after only a slight change in expression, Yi Chun suddenly drew the treasured black fire sword from his hand. The reason for Yi Chen's change in expression was the concern for the more dangerous beasts on the second and third floors of the Holy Temple Tower. Not that he couldn't handle the beasts on the first floor. This first floor featured only a few hundred battle beasts with the strength of the supreme rotating pill. If it were in the past, he might not have been able to handle them, but now, having stepped into the rotating pill realm and successfully entered the 3rd chapter of the primordial star scripture, Taiyuan chapter, Yi Chun could certainly deal with them. Whoosh! The instant black fire sword was drawn. The 5 apertures rotating pill within Yi Chen's body violently stirred, and all 81 prohibition runes on the black fire sword were crazily triggered, with the entire sword radiating an endless, divine marvel of black and red sword light. The black fire sword, a supreme treasure instrument, now had all of its might fully awakened. But this power was still not enough. As the might of the sword itself was being awakened, the endless power of laws from the 5 apertures rotating pill within Yi Chen also flooded into the black fire sword. At the same time, Yi Chen raised his sword and unleashed the swordsmanship divine art he had comprehended from the 3rd layer of the Baiming secret tome, the Great 5 Elements Sword Diagram. The Great 5 Elements Sword Light. The 1st layer of the Baiming secret tome is all-encompassing divine diagram, which mainly cultivates sword intents. The 2nd layer is Su Tian Wu G2, cultivating law sword seed, even more powerful than sword intents. Now, having stepped into the rotating pill, the 3rd layer that Yi Chen was cultivating from Baiming's secret tome, the Great 5 Elements Sword Diagram, possessed a killing force that surpassed even the law sword seed, embodying the might of a swordsmanship divine art. The Great 5 Elements Sword Light consists of the metal sword light, wood sword light, water sword light, fire sword light, and earth sword light, these 5 types of 5 elements sword light. As Yi Chen executed the Great 5 Elements Sword Light divine art, streaks of sword light spanning dozens of zhang, each brimming with colors, shot out from the black fire sword in his hands. These colorful sword lights, upon contact with the charging and fighting Jiao dragon battle beasts, swiftly killed them, despite the beasts being much larger in size. Spurt, 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 spurt. With a flick of the black fire sword in Yi Chen's hand, the heads of 7 or 8 Jiao dragon battle beasts were severed. After Yi Chen killed these Jiao dragon battle beasts, from the origin where the beasts in the 1st level of the Holy Temple Tower surged out, countless more Jiao dragon battle beasts continued to pour forth. The number of Jiao dragon battle beasts attacking Yi Chen didn't decrease at all. Seeing this, Yi Chen's face remained calm. What did it matter if their numbers hadn't reduced? For battle beasts of this level, the more that came, the more he would kill. Yi Chen flicked his black fire sword again, continuing his onslaught against the sea of battle beasts that covered the land. So many Jiao dragon battle beasts. Heavens! In another assessment area, a new disciple in the Spirit Sea middle stage faced off against a Jiao dragon battle beast with the combat power of a mid-stage rotating pill. Upon seeing the dense swarm of Jiao dragon battle beasts that outnumbered the Bloodstripe war beasts he had previously fought by dozens of times, the new disciple's face turned completely pale. He might just manage to deal with 10 rotating pill-level war beasts, but facing hundreds of them filled him with absolute terror. He swung his weapon and had just slain 4 Jiao dragon battle beasts when he was overwhelmed by many more. A moment later, a flash of teleportation light, and the new disciple was eliminated from the 1st level's challenge in the Holy Temple Tower, having failed. In other regions, all new disciples faced an onslaught of battle beasts tens of times more numerous than their first assessment. Many new disciples were already exhausted from the struggle. Even those who barely managed to cope were constantly using their movement technique to dodge the onslaught of Jiao dragon battle beasts while trying to kill them one by one. Within moments, these new disciples were covered with bloodstains and their faces were beaded with sweat. Outside the Holy Temple Tower, high up in the void, a screen of light projected the assessment situations of 12 new disciples on the 1st floor of the Holy Temple Tower. After 7 or 8 minutes into the Holy Temple Tower, of the 12 people, 5 had already been eliminated. And among the remaining ones, 2 or 3 seemed as if they would not last much longer and might be eliminated as well. To pass the 1st level of the Holy Temple Tower is to earn the qualification to cultivate in the 1st Holy Temple. For many years, in every selection of new disciples, only 1 or 2 per batch are able to directly enter the 1st Holy Temple. This time, even though 12 new disciples have managed to break into the 2nd challenge of the Holy Temple Tower, I'm afraid only a very few will get through the 1st level to join the 1st Holy Temple. The heavenly saints and senior disciples from the heavenly sacred palace, watching as new disciples were continually eliminated on the screens, couldn't help but voice their amazement. However, after expressing their thoughts a few times, the attention of these people was drawn to two screens in particular. They noticed that the new disciples on these two screens, even when faced with swarms of attacking Jiao dragon battle beasts, did not panic in the slightest, starkly different from the other candidates. On one of these screens was a young man holding a black and red treasured sword. With every step he took, he would swing his sword, and each swing would directly kill 7 or 8 Jiao dragon battle beasts. In a matter of moments, the number of Jiao dragon battle beasts he had killed amounted to 70 or 80. On the other screen was a young girl wielding an ice-blue treasured sword. She moved with ease among the multitude of war beasts, and wherever she went, a Jiao dragon giant beast would be struck down. The speed and number at which she killed the Jiao dragon giant beasts were in no way inferior to that of the young man. Watching the two of them kill Jiao dragon battle beasts, which held supreme rotating pill combat power, as if they were merely slaughtering chickens, many of the older disciples were stunned. These two are the strongest among the new disciples that we could all sense earlier. According to the envoy, these two are called Yichun and Zhang Yao. Looking at them, they will definitely get through the first layer, and possibly, they might even get through the second layer, or even manage to break into the third layer. Thinking of this, the disciples from the first holy temple were all stirred up with excitement. If these two could enter the second layer, that directly implied that the first holy temple was about to welcome two new disciples. Yichun, Zhang Yao. Among the senior disciples from the first holy temple in Chenjue, from the western wilderness's 10 great demon sects, watched with a deep jump in his heart as the two easily slaughtered the Jiao dragon battle beasts. These two people are having an easier time breaking through the first layer of the holy temple tower than I did back in the day. The older disciples had already taken full notice of Yichun and Zhang Yao, and most of the heavenly saints from Heavenly Saint Mountain had their gazes fixed on Yichun and Zhang Yao. Not bad. These two kids are good. Surrounded by a group of early-stage Heavenly Saint Realm experts, the mid-stage Heavenly Saint Realm powerhouses were all smiling and nodding at the sight of Yichun and Zhang Yao. And among the mid-stage Heavenly Saint Realm powerhouses, the formidable Heavenly Saints who were self-proclaimed as 5 Elders of Shatua Mountain, had their exceptionally bright gazes all fixed on Yichun. Qing, are these two the new disciples you brought back? In the area where the 8 great envoys stood, Mu Qingqing saw that a multitude of gazes were converging on Yichun and Zhang Yao on the screens, her sly, beautiful eyes already brimming with amusement. Just then, a voice accompanied by laughter suddenly transmitted into her mind. Upon hearing this transmission, the amusement in Mu Qingqing's beautiful eyes instantly turned into surprise. "Grandpa, are you also here to watch the new disciples' assessment?" The one Mu Qingqing was responding to through her transmission was none other than one of the 3 great palace masters of the heavenly sacred palace, Palace Master Mu Yao. As countless gazes appraised them, time passed for a moment, and by then, Yichun and Zhang Yao had already successfully killed 100 Jiao dragon battle beasts, earning the right to enter the second layer of the Holy Temple Tower. And the time it took the two to kill 100 war beasts wasn't even half an hour, not even 15 minutes. After killing the required 100 war beasts, the numerous Jiao dragon battle beasts still surging towards Yichun and Zhang Yao ceased their attacks and turned around, returning to the corner light of the Holy Temple Tower. Yichun and Zhang Yao then sat down cross-legged on the first layer to meditate and recover their true qi, awaiting the commencement of the second layer's assessment. After Yichun and Zhang Yao had successfully qualified for the second layer's assessment, 3 more people were eliminated from the first layer of the Holy Temple Tower. The total number of eliminated new disciples had reached 8. Only 4 new disciples remained within the Holy Temple Tower. Apart from Yichun and Zhang Yao, only 2 people were still undergoing the assessment, still fighting against the Jiao Dragon battle beasts. Among these 2, one was Lu Qingmei, and the other was a young man at the mid-stage of the rotating pill realm. As time drew close to the end of the half-hour period, Lu Qingmei and the mid-stage rotating pill realm young man struggled to kill enough Jiao Dragon battle beasts to secure their entry to the second layer of the Holy Temple Tower. Although their victory was hard-fought, both Lu Qingmei and the mid-stage rotating pill realm young man were exceedingly excited. Because, regardless of the outcome, They had killed enough war beasts to advance to the second layer, and even if they failed to overcome the challenges of the second layer, they had secured their entry into the first holy temple. As Lu Qingmei and the mid-stage rotating pill realm young man excitedly regulated their breathing and awaited the end of the half-hour assessment period, Yichun and Zhang Yao also stood up from their meditation. All four were waiting for the second layer of the holy temple tower to open. This wait wasn't long. When Lu Qingmei and the mid-stage rotating pill realm young man had almost fully recovered and Yichun and Zhang Yao looked up into the sky above the first layer, their surrounding space on the first layer of the holy temple tower suddenly began to flicker with numerous lights. Amidst the lights, all four vanished from the first layer of the holy temple tower. At the same time, the second layer of the holy temple tower lit up thoroughly. Chapter 353 Sky Winged Dragon. Holy Temple Tower Second Layer. Stepping into this layer signifies direct qualification to enter the first holy temple. Yichun and his three companions, as long as they are recommended by a heavenly saint, can all join the first holy temple. Within this layer, the state of mind of the four was completely different from that on the first layer. In the first layer of the holy temple tower, they were fighting to join the first holy temple, but in this second layer, they were fighting to gain the attention and opportunities of the many heavenly saints of Heavenly Saint Mountain. Heavenly Saint Mountain, where there are not only many mid-stage Heavenly Saint Realm powerhouses but also 3 existences in the late stage of the Heavenly Saint Realm. If they could gain the attention of these figures and obtain opportunities, it would of course be of great help to their cultivation in the Heavenly Sacred Palace. Naturally, Yichun and his companions all wanted to strive for such opportunities. The first layer of the Holy Temple Tower is besieged by hundreds of Jiao Dragon battle beasts. What kind of war beasts will attack us in this second layer's assessment, which is even more difficult than the first layer? Within the 4 separate spaces of the second layer of the Holy Temple Tower, Yichun, Zhang Yao, Lu Qingmei, and the mid-stage rotating Pill Realm youth all looked around the space they were in. Holy Temple Tower Second Layer. While Yichun and his companions were examining the interior of the Holy Temple Tower, countless senior disciples outside, as well as the heavenly saints of Heavenly Saint Mountain, all had their eyes sharp. Many among them had already challenged the second layer and knew what the war beast would be like. The second layer of the Holy Temple Tower. The new disciples must face a kind of exotic beast that surpasses the Jiao dragons, the Sky-Winged Dragons. Sky-Winged Dragons, unlike the Jiao dragons that must undergo transformation to become true dragons, are truly part of the true dragon lineage, a major branch of it. Even the Void Sky True God, who crafted the Holy Temple Tower, merely used the divine blood of the real Sky-Winged Dragons to condense them in this second layer, but the combat power of the Sky-Winged Dragons that it provokes is incredibly powerful. These 4 new disciples will face the assault of hundreds of Sky-Winged Dragon war beasts, with invincible rotating pill combat power in the second layer. Not only must they be able to withstand these Sky-Winged Dragon war beasts, but they must also slay enough to total 100 within half an hour. This difficulty, for those in the rotating pill realm, is truly too great. Unless they possess truly special means capable of suppressing invincible rotating pill war beasts. Amidst the discussions of the senior disciples and heavenly saints, the 4 in the second layer of the Holy Temple Tower, Yichun and his companions, once again heard the sound of the war drums beginning to resonate. This is the countdown for the war beasts to appear. Boom! 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 With each drumbeat, Yichun, Zhang Yao, and the others' expressions became more solemn. Once all 9 beats of the drums had rung out, a flash of sharp light appeared in the eyes of the 4. Because they all saw, within the void above the space they were in, it seemed as if pieces of the void were being ripped open, and one after another, fierce war beasts flew out from the void, attacking them. The moment they sensed the breath of combat power released by these war beasts and saw their appearances, not only did Lu Qingmei and the mid-stage rotating Pill Realm youths' faces drastically change, but even Yichun and Zhang Yao felt their hearts tremble. What divine marvels these colossal beasts were! Standing in the space he was in, Yichun watched the war beasts that were swooping down toward him. He found that these war beasts were in fact a flock of flying twin-winged flying dragons. Each of these twin-winged flying dragons was over 100 zhang in length. their enormous wings adorned with endless spiritual patterns that shone brightly. With wings spread, they spanned over 300 jong in length. In the howling of their wings, ferocious hurricanes were directly whipped up. Within these hurricanes, they even carried the terrifying breath of the 5 elements. Clearly, each of these flying winged dragons was an awe-inspiring exotic beast infused with the formidable 5 heavenly void laws. These winged dragons, with their terrifying claws and massive beaks, were even more daunting than the previous Jiao dragons. Coupled with the divine speed unleashed by their wings, confronting these invincible rotating pill realm winged dragons, not to mention a whole swarm, even many invincible rotating pill realm powerhouses would struggle to deal with just one. To survive among this flock of winged dragons, one must possess means that surpass those of the unbeatable at the rotating pill realm. Boom! 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 As these winged dragons burst down from the sky, instantly outnumbering and targeting the 4 people inside the second layer of the Holy Temple Tower, the battle unfolded in a flash. The youth at the mid-stage of the rotating pill realm was directly defeated and eliminated. The mid-stage rotating pill realm youth, who possessed combat power that could fight beyond his level, could only deploy techniques on the unbeatable rotating pill level. Against 3 to 5 unbeatable rotating pill war beasts, such techniques sufficed. However, faced with dozens of sky-winged dragons, they were utterly inadequate. Not only was this mid-stage rotating pill realm youth instantly eliminated, but even Lu Qingmei, after managing to slay 3 sky-winged dragon war beasts, was also defeated and teleported out of the Holy Temple Tower. Their strengths were exceptional among the new disciples, which is why they were able to enter the first Holy Temple. Yet to pass the second layer of the Holy Temple Tower, to gain the utmost attention of numerous heavenly saints, their current means fell far too short. Once the mid-stage rotating pill realm youth and Lu Qingmei were eliminated, out of all the new disciples only 2 remained. Only Yi Chun and Zhang Yao were left. To battle against the unbeatable sky-winged dragon war beasts on the second layer, one must possess means that exceed the unbeatable level of the rotating pill realm. Indeed, Yi Chun and Zhang Yao each possess such means. As the swarm of sky-winged dragon war beasts attacked the 4 within the Holy Temple Tower, quickly eliminating 2, the 2 who stood strong drew the rapt attention of the watching senior disciples and heavenly saints, their eyes shining brightly. They knew that for Yi Chun and Zhang Yao to continue in the Holy Temple Tower, they definitely wouldn't have it as easy as on the first floor and would have to reveal their true tactics. Indeed, as the senior disciples and heavenly saints had guessed, both Yi Chun and Zhang Yao had already fully unleashed their real combat power. On Yi Chen's side, if it were one unbeatable rotating pill war beast at a time, I could defeat each in turn. But with over 100 winged dragon war beasts covering both the sky and the earth at the same time, I have to face attacks from over 10 winged dragon war beasts without being able to retreat easily, and also have to be mindful of even more winged dragon war beasts coming from behind. Since that's the case, let's fight with all we've got. I also want to see what extent of power my newly cultivated techniques, after stepping into the rotating pill realm and learning the 3rd chapter of the primordial star scripture, have reached. As Yi Chen's eyes gleamed brightly, he soared into the sky. Since stepping into the rotating pill realm, Yi Chun hadn't yet encountered a real adversary. But now, he was truly about to erupt with all his might. Ow! 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 The moment Yi Chun soared into the sky, the flock of winged dragon war beasts in the heavens had an even larger area to attack, and they all rushed toward him, aiming to tear and bite. When I take to the sky, it's not to give you an easier shot at me. As Yi Chun surged upward, he watched the countless attacks from the winged dragon war beasts. Inside his Qi Si, the vibrant 5 apertures rotating pill flashed wildly, unleashing a vast torrent of law breath. And even more astonishingly, amidst the starry sky dawn light enveloping that 5 apertures rotating pill, there sounded a whizzing of mysterious fluttering. Incessantly flashing along with that 5 apertures rotating pill, another 7 of the same 5 apertures rotating pills appeared. Within Yi Chen's Qi Si, 8 5 apertures rotating pills had suddenly emerged. Chapter 354. Surprise, Horror. 8 5 apertures rotating pills. If the martial artists from the barbaric wilderness continent were to witness this, countless martial artists would surely be scared to death. Rotating pill realm powerhouses from the barbaric wilderness continent can only cultivate one rotating pill, yet Yi Chen has actually cultivated 8 rotating pills. This is simply an inconceivable scenario. What these people don't know is that the 8 rotating pills Yi Chen had cultivated originate from the incredibly divine primordial star scripture, which is part of the cultivation path necessary for the 3rd chapter of the primordial star scripture, the Taiyuan chapter, to cultivate the Taiyuan divine pill. In the steps of cultivating the Taiyuan divine pill, let alone 8 5-apertures rotating pills, Yi Chen could ultimately cultivate up to an entire 999 rotating pills, reaching the state of extreme realm dispersion. Although Yi Chen is not yet capable of reaching the 999 rotating pills at the state of extreme realm dispersion, the 7 new rotating pills he had cultivated with the starry fog in the Starlight Tower, together with the first rotating pill originally formed from the fusion of the 5 great divine bloods and the primordial true liquid, these 8 5-apertures rotating pills combined, have already given Yi Chen absolutely dominating strength that suppresses the rotating pill realm invincibles. Now, what do these sky-winged dragons' attacks amount to against him? Fight! The 8 5-apertures rotating pills within Yi Chen's Qi-Si world flash wildly, while outside his body, terrible breaths of the 5 great laws surge out, even knocking the huge winged dragons that were madly pouncing towards Yi Chen off course, causing them to stumble in all directions. At the same time, Yi Chen draws his black fire sword, roars, and directly charges towards the winged dragons in the sky. With the power of the 8 5-apertures rotating pills in his internal skills, and the swordsmanship divine art of the great 5 elements sword light with his external skills, the combination of these 2 attacks has caused Yi Chen's killing force to surge to an unbelievable level. Thwack! With a slash of Yi Chen's black fire sword, he decapitates the head of a sky-winged dragon. As the dragon's massive head and body fall from the sky, blood gushes forth like a fountain, sending all the winged dragons in the sky scurrying away in terror. Yi Chen, holding the black fire sword, his gaze cold and determined, shoots forward after another sky-winged dragon. Seeing no chance of escape, the winged dragon lets out piercing screams, and astonishingly, it instigates 5 other sky-winged dragons to turn around and counterattack against Yi Chen simultaneously. 1 man against 5 winged dragons, and a fierce battle instantly ensues. Elsewhere, the stunning, long-haired beauty Zhang Yao was likewise facing attacks from numerous sky-winged dragons. As Yi Chen truly unleashed his power, Zhang Yao also burst forth with her newly acquired powerful techniques. Once, in the late stages of the Spirit Sea Realm, Zhang Yao could defeat 3 rotating pill invincibles with a single move. Now, having stepped into the rotating pill realm, the girl had even more formidable abilities, allowing her to meet the sky-winged dragons head-on without hesitation. Boom! 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 As the sky-winged dragons swarmed towards Zhang Yao, the ice-blue electric killing move that she used to strike down war beasts on the first level of the Holy Temple Tower instantly changes. Mid-transformation, Zhang Yao's waist-length hair billows out, and around her body, icy blue electric clouds begin to storm out. These ice-blue electric clouds even form gargantuan bolts of lightning, as thick as arms, that forcefully cleave towards the sky-winged dragons in void heaven. When a sky-winged dragon confronts one of these gargantuan lightning bolts, in an instant, it is struck and killed, plummeting down from the void. Yi Chen and Zhang Yao, both going all out, truly explode into action. In the second level of the Holy Temple Tower, one after another sky-winged dragon beasts die at their hands. The number of sky-winged dragons they needed to slay to reach 100 is getting closer and closer. The battle within the Holy Temple Tower is astoundingly fierce. Meanwhile, outside the Holy Temple Tower, countless elder disciples from the Heavenly Sacred Palace and other heavenly saints watching the battle, including Lu Qingmei, who had just been eliminated from the Holy Temple Tower, and a youth in the middle stage of the rotating pill realm, were completely astonished. Most people could have guessed that Yi Chen and Zhang Yao could enter the second level. Many could also imagine that Yi Chen and Zhang Yao would be able to battle the sky-winged dragons on the second level. But no one expected that once they were truly engaged in battle, Both the young man Yi Chun and the young girl Zhang Yao would be so strong that they could slay a sky-winged dragon with a single move and terrify the rest into fleeing in all directions. This unequivocally proves that Yi Chun and Zhang Yao's combat power has surpassed even the invincible level of the rotating pill realm. Although outside the Holy Temple Tower, observers cannot feel the astonishing breadth of Yi Chen's 8 major 5-apertures rotating pills, nor recognize the origins of Yi Chen's great 5-elements sword light moves or Zhang Yao's secret divine Phoenix clan divine arts. But all the powerful figures of the heavenly sacred palace know that both Yi Chun and Zhang Yao must have great achievements in both internal and external skills, as well as immense talent. Otherwise, there was no way they could have killed the sky-winged dragons so effortlessly. The young man and woman, still in the early stages of the rotating pill realm, yet possessing the talent and achievements to kill invincible sky-winged dragons of the rotating pill realm, definitively showcase their potential. This potential supports the possibility of them reaching the middle or even late stages of the heavenly saint realm. Yi Chun, Zhang Yao, Princess Yao. In the void outside the Holy Temple Tower, the eyes of the 3 hidden palace masters of the heavenly sacred palace simultaneously shone brightly. Taking disciples, if I could take either of these 2 as my disciple, I'm afraid their future achievements would suffice to make them my foremost disciple, and they might even surpass me one day. This thought flashed through the minds of both the Skyscraper Palace Master and Mu Yao Palace Master. And for the most powerful among them, the even more formidable Palace Master Yuan Li of the Heavenly Sacred Palace, a myriad of thoughts crossed his mind. Princess Yao is of the Divine Phoenix clan. Moreover, she is a princess of the clan, her status immensely noble, her bloodline preciously rare, and her natural talent incredibly strong. I wouldn't be too surprised by her achievements. But I didn't expect that Yi Chun, who is so close to Princess Yao, could also be this formidable. In such a short period of time, his combat power has improved so much from when he was at Immeasurable Mountain. Both are true heavens chosen. Princess Yao holds such a noble status, and I am absolutely not qualified to take her as my disciple. I can only watch over her on behalf of True Phoenix. Given the relationship between Yi Chun and Princess Yao, it is likewise not appropriate for me to directly take Yi Chun as my disciple. Princess Yao will have True Phoenix personally teaching her in the future. I don't need to worry too much about her. This Yi Chun, for the sake of Princess Yao, for the sake of the heavenly sacred palace, I must indeed cultivate him well. To be able to absolutely suppress the invincible of the rotating pill realm at the early stage of rotating pill, I wasn't as fierce as that in my day. It could even be said that, at the same realm, Yi Chun would definitely be able to contend against the descendants of the God Clan in the upper realm, ranking among the top 1 or 2 in all rotating pill experts across the 33 continents of the lower realm. Soon, the day of the joint expedition by the 33 continents is coming. Perhaps, I can give Yi Chun a spot. Heavenly Saint Yuan Li contemplated in the secretive expanse of the void. The 3 palace masters of the heavenly sacred palace all regarded Yi Chun and Zhang Yao with utmost importance due to their battle, let alone other people. At this time, the current disciples of Heavenly Saint Mountain below the Heavenly Saint Realm already felt immense pressure. Among the new disciples had emerged 2 such heavens chosen, with strength even greater than theirs, naturally exerting great pressure on them. Even many early-stage powerhouses of the Heavenly Saint Realm began to feel a sense of crisis. Although strong individuals who had just stepped into the Heavenly Saint Realm could also easily kill the invincible sky-winged dragons of the rotating pill realm, Yi Chun and Zhang Yao were much younger than them. As long as they don't fall, given time, there seems to be no problem at all for them to surpass these individuals. The older disciples and early-stage strong individuals of the Heavenly Saint Realm felt intensified pressure, but the mid-stage strong individuals of the Heavenly Saint Realm, on the other hand, were all with brightly lit eyes. The display of power by Yi Chun and Zhang Yao completely thrilled them. The 2 were still far from reaching the strength of the mid-stage Heavenly Saint Realm, posing no threat to these mid-stage powerhouses but instead inspiring them to truly cherish talents and seek to befriend them. After all, building a good relationship with such talented individuals before they have fully matured could be greatly beneficial to them in the future. Taking disciples, if Yi Chun and Zhang Yao, these 2 youngsters are willing to agree, I will definitely take them both as my disciples. Even if I can't take them as my disciples, I must give them some rewards for traversing the Holy Temple Tower and form an alliance with them. The mid-stage powerhouses of the Heavenly Saint realm all thought to themselves. The crowd of the Heavenly Sacred Palace watching the Holy Temple Tower was shaken, thrilled, but among them, there was one person whose heart had already turned to utter panic. This person was Yin Chenjue from the top 10 demon sects of the Western Wilderness. How could it be? How could they be this formidable? Both of them are so powerful. Yin Chenjue looked at Yi Chan and Zhang Yao, filled with disbelief. If the combat power they showed earlier while storming the tower was still acceptable to him, the power Yi Chan and Zhang Yao had now unleashed was definitely enough to disturb Yin Chenjue's calm. To be able to kill with such ease amongst a group of invincible sky wing dragons of the rotating pill realm at the early stage clearly indicated that Yi Chan and Zhang Yao, even if they haven't truly entered the Heavenly Saint realm, possessed the combat power of that level. At the early stage of rotating pill possessing combat power of the Heavenly Saint level, and since both are sworn enemies of the Western Wilderness top 10 demon sects from the 13 countries of the Southern Territory, how could this not alarm Yin Chenjue? Yin Chenjue no longer dared to imagine how formidable Yi Chan and Zhang Yao would become if they continued to grow. If either of them reached the mid or even late stages of the Heavenly Saint realm, by then, the Western Wilderness wouldn't even think about reclaiming the Southern Territory, let alone compete against it. This Yi Chan and Zhang Yao must not be allowed to grow any further. They must die. They must be killed before they grow any more. Yin Chenjue had harbored this thought earlier, and now it became even more pressing. In the end, Yin Chenjue's gaze swept through the void and landed on a heavenly saint, who seemed to sense his look and returned it, their eyes meeting with deep and indescribable meanings. Chapter 355. The third layer that cannot be surpassed. Within the second level of the Holy Temple Tower. Thrilling. It's just too thrilling. Having slain the 87th Sky Wing Dragon War Beast, the immense power of laws repelled the other Sky Wing Dragons dozens of feet away, and Yi Chun took a deep breath. This time, engaging with so many Sky Wing Dragons, Yi Chun had almost fully unleashed all his strength. His body bore over a dozen wounds, stained with quite a bit of blood. Though he had sustained some minor injuries, Yi Chun felt an overwhelming surge of excitement. In the past, Yi Chun had also fought powerful experts from the Divine Phoenix clan with rotating pill mastery in the Azure Blue Mansion's Battle Spirit Hall. But those were one-on-one battles. This time, in the Holy Temple Tower, he faced hundreds of rotating pill invincible level Sky Wing Dragons at once, with both the danger and killing intent countless times greater than the Battle Spirit Hall. Such combat situations truly gave Yi Chun a sense of intense exhilaration. In the midst of battle, as he killed the Sky Wing Dragon War Beasts one by one, Yi Chun's mastery over his newly cultivated 8 Great 5 Apertures rotating pill and the Great 5 Elements Sword Lightsword art became more profound, finding his attacks amidst the throng of beasts becoming increasingly effortless. For internal cultivation, I have the Taiyuan chapter, and the secret cultivation methods of the Taiyuan Divine Pill. For external cultivation, I further cultivated the Great 5 Elements Sword Light Sword art. With these two techniques, I should be able to break through this second layer. Yi Chen's gaze swept across the numerous winged dragons in the sky, his mind already drifting toward the third layer. In the second layer, I can say that my battle with these winged dragons was evenly matched, but to be precise, I was only slightly superior. If the war beasts in the third layer increase their combat power by tens of times like in the second layer, then I will be no match for them. Yi Chun had many techniques at his disposal. Aside from the Taiyuan Divine Pill and the Great 5 Elements Sword Light Sword art, there were also 5 great magical skills from the Taiyuan chapter that were even more powerful than the Great 5 Elements Sword Light, ready to be used. Unfortunately, in the more than 10 days after obtaining the Taiyuan chapter, Yi Chun had devoted all his focus to practicing the Great 5 Elements Sword Light Sword art and had not yet cultivated the 5 great magical skills from the chapter, rendering them unusable for now. Of course, besides the 5 great magical skills, Yi Chun could also utilize the physical combat techniques of the 9 transformation fighting body, but at present, he had only comprehended up to the 6th transformation, making his combat power slightly weaker than that of the Great 5 Elements Sword Light. As for his most powerful technique, his native Chikara sword, an extreme-grade Saint artifact, and its life-threatening moves such as the native deflection and flying sword self-detonation, were measures Yi Chun would only resort to in life-and-death situations and would not use in the battles of the Holy Temple Tower. After contemplating the upcoming third-layer battle situation, Yi Chen's gaze hardened anew. No matter what, I have used the 8-5 Aperture's rotating pills and the Taiyuan chapter's Great 5 Elements Sword Light Sword Art to slay many powerful winged dragon war beasts on this second layer, proving my strength. This is probably enough for me to firmly establish myself within the heavenly sacred palace. The rest, no matter what I may face in the third layer, let's just have an all-out battle. For now, step into the third layer first. With this thought in mind, Yi Chun took a few deep breaths, regulating the energy within his body before once again charging through the sky toward the winged dragons. Kill! 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 From the 1st to the 87th, Yi Chun had spent nearly half an hour's time, and in the following period, with his techniques growing ever more masterful, Yi Chen's speed at slaying the invincible rotating pill-level sky-winged dragon war beasts also increased significantly. After about 10 more minutes, Yi Chun finally succeeded once again in slaying 13 sky-winged dragon war beasts, bringing his total number of defeated beasts to 100, the number needed to break through the second layer. Yi Chun finally earned the right to enter the third level of the Holy Temple Tower. Shortly after Yi Chun completed his slayings, Zhang Yao, in another space, also finished killing 100 sky-winged dragon war beasts, thereby earning the right to challenge the third level. After both had completed the second level assessment of the Holy Temple Tower, the entire space outside the tower, where many elder disciples and heavenly saints stood, erupted in cheering and applause. Two people entering the third level of the Holy Temple Tower simultaneously was an extremely rare event in the heavenly sacred palace in nearly 1,000 years. Out of the 12 new disciples assessed, 8 were eliminated on the first level, 2 on the second, and now only Yi Chun and Zhang Yao, the last 2, had successfully broken through to the third level. Thump! 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 When the half-hour mark for the second level assessment had passed, and the third level of the Holy Temple Tower completely lit up, a series of drumming sounds signaled that Yi Chun and Zhang Yao had finally stepped into the third level of the Holy Temple Tower, ready to face the war beasts of the third layer. The third layer. Facing the war beasts of the third layer, both Yi Chun and Zhang Yao began to feel nervous. They both remembered that before entering the Holy Temple Tower, the Heavenly Saint Envoy had mentioned that the third layer was a place that they, as new disciples, would definitely not be able to break through. Even the Heavenly Saint Envoy, who had been in the Heavenly Saint realm for several hundred years, found it very difficult to break through the third layer, let alone them. After the second layer battles with the sky-winged dragon war beasts, Yi Chun and Zhang Yao both felt that the envoy's words were absolutely true. What will the war beasts of the third layer be? At that moment, facing the imminent third layer war beasts, both Yi Chun and Zhang Yao felt a mix of nervousness and anticipation. The two looked on at the special spatial realm of the third layer of the Holy Temple Tower, which was many times larger than the second level, and quietly waited. Outside the Holy Temple Tower. Upon hearing the drumming from the third layer of the Holy Temple Tower, the people of the heavenly sacred palace, who had been jubilant due to Yi Chun and Zhang Yao's progress to the third layer, finally began to quiet down. The third layer, they've finally reached the third layer. This third layer, even many true heavenly saint experts, those in the early stages of the heavenly saint level, cannot break through, let alone them. However, being able to stand in the third layer of space is already enough for those two little fellows. In the void, various heavenly saints from the heavenly saint mountainside with emotion. There were some heavenly saints who were greatly interested in taking Yi Chun and Zhang Yao as disciples or in befriending them, and they rose from their seated positions in the void. Prepare to welcome the two of them out of the Holy Temple Tower. Once they really reach the third layer, they will come out very soon. All the heavenly saint powerhouses believed that Yi Chun and Zhang Yao would not be able to get through the third layer of the Holy Temple Tower, and Yi Chun and Zhang Yao themselves also felt indescribably challenged by the third layer. At this moment, the war beasts of the third layer of the Holy Temple Tower finally appeared. Roar! 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 Following the howls that stirred the entire space, hundreds of gigantic beasts with wings spanning 1,000 zhang swooped down from the airspace above the third layer of the Holy Temple Tower with a thunderous rumble. Upon seeing these gigantic beasts, both Yi Chun and Zhang Yao's eyes widened. If the sight of the sky-winged dragons at the second layer had already astonished Yi Chun and Zhang Yao, now the appearance of these beasts, several times bigger than the winged dragons, made Yi Chun and Zhang Yao exclaim in shock. Because they had never imagined that the war beasts of the third layer would still be sky-winged dragons. These sky-winged dragons seemed like mature forms of those from the second layer, not only significantly larger but also their appearances had undergone a transformation. The sky-winged dragons on the second layer were black, but the even larger ones in the third layer were colored flaming red, icy blue, and even the color of lightning mad dragons. Clearly, the sky-winged dragons in the third layer had much greater comprehension of the laws than those in the second layer, and were probably true heavenly saint-level sky-winged dragons that had fully mastered one of the 5 major celestial laws. Almost in the blink of an eye, this sky full of sky-winged dragons launched an attack on Yi Chun. The flaming red sky-winged dragon spewed out towering flames that even burned through the void, manifesting the power of laws of the fire element to perfection. The icy blue sky-winged dragon, in turn, spewed out an icy mist that could freeze the heavens and the earth, paralyzing the void. And the blue and white lightning mad dragon instigated a furious storm of thunder, burned by fire, encased in ice, and stirred by lightning. Yi Chun, caught in the onslaught of hundreds of mature sky-winged dragons, felt completely numb in spirit. Heavenly Saint Realm. Each of these sky-winged dragons has reached the level of the Heavenly Saint Realm. Although it seems that the sky-winged dragons in this third layer have just stepped into the Heavenly Saint, mastering only one of the 5 major celestial laws to perfection, the most powerful few lightning mad dragons have mastered too. But confronted with so many sky-winged dragons, I am completely unable to resist them, unless I truly possess the strength to overpower most early-stage heavenly saints. Even initial stages of the Heavenly Saint Realm have their distinctions of strong and weak. In the rotating pill realm, by comprehending the metal, wood, water, fire, earth 5 major celestial laws, only by fully comprehending one of the 5 major celestial laws to perfection can one become an early-stage Heavenly Saint powerhouse. The most powerful early-stage Heavenly Saint Realm powerhouses are certainly those who simultaneously comprehend all 5 major celestial laws, reaching perfection in all 5 laws. The weaker ones are Heavenly Saints who have fully mastered 2 or 3 of the celestial laws, and the weakest are those who have fully mastered just 1 celestial law. At this moment, the sky-winged dragons of the third layer that Yi Chun faced belonged to the weakest batch of Heavenly Saint combat power. Even for the weakest batch, Heavenly Saint combat power is still Heavenly Saint combat power. Facing hundreds of them combined, he was definitely not someone Yi Chun could deal with now. In an instant, Yi Chun's body was burned by the red sky-winged dragons, frozen by the blue ones, and in the next moment, those few lightning dragons struck countless bolts of lightning, slicing towards Yi Chun. Boom! Without any resistance, Yi Chun managed just in time to slash with a sword, repelling the weakest winged dragon, while he was eliminated from the third layer of the Holy Temple Tower in the burning, freezing, and lightning strikes. Yi Chun, defeated. Huff huff. Yi Chun, having come out of the Holy Temple Tower, still felt his spirit numb. This was his first time confronting Heavenly Saint-level combat power head-on. Facing so many Heavenly Saint-level sky-winged dragons, he was indeed unable to win and was defeated. This third layer of the Holy Temple Tower was indeed beyond his current strength. At my current strength, I can handle the weakest early-stage Heavenly Saints. But any stronger early-stage Heavenly Saints, I cannot contend with. Perhaps only if I cultivate dozens of 5 apertures rotating pills and also comprehend and grasp the 5 divine arts of the Taiyuan chapter, might I possibly get through this third layer of the Holy Temple Tower. Although defeated, this kind of failure only fueled Yi Chun's determination to grow stronger. At the same time that Yi Chun was eliminated from the Holy Temple Tower, another figure flew out from within. This figure was Zhang Yao, who had suffered the same fate as Yi Chun, failing against the hundreds of Heavenly Saint-level sky-winged dragons and getting eliminated. When both Yi Chun and Zhang Yao emerged from the Holy Temple Tower, There was already no one left inside the tower. And at that moment, numerous heavenly saints in the void, who were already waiting for the two to come out, all converged towards the last eliminated two new disciples, the two genuine prodigies, Yi-chan and Zhang Yao. Chapter 356 Heavenly Saint Accepts a Disciple. Heavenly Sacred Palace, the number one sect in the central region of the barbaric wilderness continent, is the sole second-grade sect with a late-stage Heavenly Saint Realm powerhouse at its helm. Every new disciple who joins such a sect is trembling with eagerness, diligently cultivating, striving to establish a firm foothold in such a prestigious sect. However, Yi-chan and Zhang Yao, relying on their strength, proved their worth upon arriving at the Heavenly Sacred Palace, earning the respect and recognition of countless individuals, and even more so, caught the eye of numerous Heavenly Saint Realm powerhouses of Heavenly Saint Mountain. Seeing all the Heavenly Saints gather around Yi-chan and Zhang Yao, the other new disciples who were eliminated from the War Beast Hall and Holy Temple Tower were filled with immense envy, and even many of the senior disciples looked at them with eyes full of unparalleled jealousy. Such valued opportunities by countless Heavenly Saints. These are opportunities that very few have the ability to obtain. Seeing the many powerhouses converging around them, Yi-chan and Zhang Yao exchanged glances and smiles appeared on their faces. Their struggles and advancements through the Holy Temple Tower, all the way to the third floor, were for this very moment. Although the two of them weren't too concerned about the rewards from the many Heavenly Saints of Heavenly Saint Mountain, earning the esteem of countless Heavenly Saints in the Heavenly Sacred Palace greatly benefited the 13 countries of the Southern Territory. Of course, these Heavenly Saints might not truly help the Southern Territory in conflicts with the Western Wilderness, but having more friends is always better than having more opponents. Yi-chan and Zhang Yao knew that as their strength increased, they would surely gain the heartfelt willingness of countless powerhouses to assist them. By then, even if the 10 great demon sects of the Western Wilderness sought out more allies, they would no longer threaten the Southern Territory. Young friends Yi-chan and Zhang Yao, your strength has surprised us old folks indeed. I am Luo Dian. Would you two be interested in becoming disciples of this old fellow? Amongst the numerous Heavenly Saints crowding around Yi-chan and Zhang Yao, an old man at the mid-stage of the Heavenly Saint Realm took the initiative to speak to them first. Upon seeing the face of this mid-stage Heavenly Saint Realm old man, many of the senior disciples of the Heavenly Sacred Palace exclaimed, "It's Heavenly Saint Luo Dian. Heavenly Saint Luo Dian is actually taking disciples." Heavenly Saint Luo Dian is absolutely among the top 10 in strength within Heavenly Saint Mountain Saints. He has never taken a disciple over the years, and now, he has directly extended an invitation to both Yi-chan and Zhang Yao. Being able to become a disciple of Heavenly Saint Luo Dian, Yi-chan and Zhang Yao have truly struck great fortune. Their future achievements are boundless. Amidst the exclamations of the senior disciples, envy saturated their voices. Hearing the discussions of the senior disciples, Heavenly Saint Luo Dian didn't speak up to stop them. Instead, he watched Yi-chan and Zhang Yao with a gleeful smile. Heavenly Saint Luo Dian genuinely esteemed these two young individuals from the bottom of his heart. Heavenly Saint Luo Dian entered the rotating pill realm with the support of the 5 orifices rotating pill and later successfully mastered 3 kinds of illusory heavenly principles to the level of perfection, stepping into the Heavenly Saint Realm. Having joined the Heavenly Sacred Palace for over 1,000 years, he had never thought of taking a new disciple, not even before coming to the Holy Temple Tower this time. But after witnessing Yi-chan and Zhang Yao's performance within the Holy Temple Tower, he suddenly entertained the idea of taking disciples. Heavenly Saint Luo Dian even had a premonition that if he could take Yi-chan or Zhang Yao as a disciple, then this disciple would surely become his pride in the future. Although he looked at Yi-chan and Zhang Yao with a beaming smile, he couldn't help feeling a bit nervous deep down before they agreed to be his disciples. Once Heavenly Saint Luo Dian spoke up, many other Heavenly Saints also eager to take Yi-chan and Zhang Yao as disciples hesitated, pausing in their steps. After all, with Heavenly Saint Luo Dian's strength evident and his call for disciples already made, many knew they were no match for competition and it wasn't their place to speak up anymore. However, at that moment, a group of people followed behind Heavenly Saint Luo Dian and smilingly said to Yi-chan and Zhang Yao, Taoist Luo Dian values the young friends Yichan and Zhang Yao, but we 5 old chaps value both of you as well. Young friends Yichan and Zhang Yao, if you are not inclined to take Taoist Luo Dian as your master, consider us as well. Boom! In the course of their conversation, 5 mid-stage heavenly saint realm beings crossed through the crowd and also came to the side of Yichan and Zhang Yao. Upon hearing someone following up on heavenly saint Luo Dian's offer, many senior disciples were stunned. After all, he who would compete with heavenly saint Luo Dian likely possessed strength not inferior to or very similar to that of heavenly saint Luo Dian. And when looking at these 5 heavenly saints, not only were the senior disciples completely taken aback, but also the numerous heavenly saints of Heavenly Saint Mountain, and even Heavenly Saint Luo Dian were utterly startled. The 5 elders of Shatua Mountain. Seniors, you also wish to take Yichan and Zhang Yao as disciples? Many heavenly saints exclaimed. The 5 elders of Shatua Mountain, each at the mid-stage of the heavenly saint realm, were definitely not to be trifled with by any heavenly saints, even those at the same stage of heavenly saint realm. Because the 5 elders of Shatua Mountain were amongst the most significant and senior figures of the heavenly sacred palace, apart from the 3 palace masters. Rumor had it that before joining the heavenly sacred palace, they cultivated together in the Polar Star archipelago of the eastern parts of the barbaric wilderness continent. It was Mu Yao Palace Master, who personally invited them to the heavenly sacred palace. They belonged to the first batch of heavenly saints cultivating on Heavenly Saint Mountain, and were old seniors who helped establish the heavenly sacred palace alongside the 3 great palace masters. Chapter 357. For many years, these 5 elders have been inseparable, cultivating together. Although they haven't broken through to the latter stages of the heavenly saint realm, their combined strength is such that even those in the latter stages would be willing to engage in battle with them. They had never taken in any disciples, so it was certainly a surprise to countless heavenly saints when they suddenly expressed a desire to take Yichan and Zhang Yao as their disciples. Heavenly Saint Luo Dian was the first to speak out about taking on disciples. Now, the elder predecessors from the heavenly sacred palace, the 5 elders of Shatua Mountain, were also making their intentions known. All the senior disciples and the heavenly saints from Heavenly Saint Mountain were looking at Yichan and Zhang Yao, curious as to how the 2 of them would choose. Heavenly Saint Luo Dian? The 5 elders of Shatua Mountain? The 5 senior predecessors. They all want to take us as disciples? Yichan and Zhang Yao exchanged glances, both somewhat surprised. They had anticipated attracting the attention of the heavenly saints, but they hadn't expected that those who first showed interest in them would be the most powerful heavenly saints from Heavenly Saint Mountain. From the respectful behavior of the other heavenly saints towards Heavenly Saint Luo Dian and the 5 elders of Shatua Mountain, the 2 of them could tell that these figures were of great significance. However, even if Heavenly Saint Luo Dian and the 5 elders of Shatua Mountain had great influences, Yichan and Zhang Yao knew that should they decide to become disciples of either party, they would be able to walk unobstructed within the heavenly sacred palace. Yet they still hesitated. Choosing a master is as serious as choosing a parent. One must attach utmost importance to taking on a master and not make such a decision lightly. For Zhang Yao, Fairy Jialuo, who raised her, was her one and only master. Although warriors from the barbaric wilderness continent could have many masters in their lifetimes, she had never contemplated taking another one. Being from the upper realms divine Phoenix clan, her achievements and personal standards were definitely to exceed those of the heavenly saints and to pursue the more powerful Void Sky True God realm. Moreover, she already possessed the bloodline inheritance of the divine Phoenix clan. Even though Heavenly Saint Luo Dian and the 5 elders of Shatua Mountain were formidable, their assistance in her true cultivation wouldn't be significant. Taking them as masters would not only be of little benefit, but it might even drag Heavenly Saint Luo Dian and the 5 elders into the troubles of the divine Phoenix clan. With the enmities between the divine Phoenix clan and the other 2 great god clans, plus my identity as a member of the divine Phoenix clan, I fear that I can no longer take another as my master on this barbaric wilderness continent, thought Zhang Yao to herself. It wasn't just Zhang Yao. Yichan also didn't harbor the thought of taking a master. The secrets he bore were even more numerous than Zhang Yao's. Whether it was the primordial star scripture or the star's tower, both were critically important, and taking a master could very likely expose his secrets. We will not take a master while in the heavenly sacred palace. Yichun and Jiang Yao shared a glance, understanding each other's thoughts. The two of them hesitated and communicated further. But to the other senior disciples and the heavenly saints, this was completely unexpected. In their eyes, Yichun and Jiang Yao were doubtlessly talented, true geniuses. Yet genius was just that, genius. After all, both of them were still in the rotating pill realm. Whether they could achieve the heavenly saint realm was still in question, for there were many uncertainties on the path of growth, and numerous geniuses perished prematurely or fell along the way. In the eyes of these elder disciples, being able to take a mid-stage heavenly saint realm powerhouse as a master was already an excellent choice, let alone such absolutely powerful beings as heavenly saint Luo Dian and the Shatua Mountain Five Elders, with such impressive presences actively inviting disciples. And yet these two still hesitated. Countless elder disciples and even early-stage heavenly saint realm powerhouses felt both envy and perplexed by Yichun and Jiang Yao. If it were me, I would definitely agree to become an apprentice. These are the most powerful heavenly saints of the entire heavenly saint mountain. To become their disciples would be an incredible fortune. I want to become a disciple but can't. And they are still hesitating. Many elder disciples grumbled to themselves. While the elder disciples were grumbling, Yichun and Jiang Yao were hesitating about how to refuse without embarrassing Luo Dian and the Shatua Mountain Five Elders. Meanwhile, Luo Dian and the Five Elders were still looking forward to Yichun and Jiang Yao's consideration, hoping they would eventually agree. Out of nowhere, the void in the sky ripped open, and a figure in a black robe emerged with a hearty laugh. Even the Five Elders are inviting apprentices. It seems I need to hurry up and show myself, or else I might miss out on good apprentices. Amidst the laughter, the black-robed figure stepped out from the void rift. As the black-robed figure appeared, he also fixed his gaze on another part of the void, calling out with a smile, "Mu, have you been hiding over there watching for so long? Why aren't you showing yourself? Are you not planning to compete for good disciples with me?" Upon seeing this black-robed figure, all the elder disciples of the heavenly sacred palace and all the heavenly saints of the heavenly saint mountain, even heavenly saint Luo Dian and the Shatua Mountain Five Elders, were surprised and exclaimed, "Third Palace Master." This black-robed elder was none other than one of the three great palace masters of the heavenly sacred palace. Ranking third, the skyscraper palace master. The elder disciples of the heavenly sacred palace and the heavenly saints could never have imagined that Yichun and Jiang Yao had not only attracted heavenly saint Luo Dian and the Shatua Mountain Five Elders, but now their palace master had also personally come forward. From the tone of their palace master, the skyscraper palace master, it was clear he too had the intention of taking Yichun and Jiang Yao as disciples. In the past, their palace master had also taken apprentices, but he had never appeared personally. Instead, he would simply transmit a message to those favored disciples, directing them to go to Heavenly Saint Mountain to pay their respects as apprentices. It was unimaginable that, in this competition for apprentices, even the palace master would make a personal appearance. Moreover, hearing the words "Mu" in the speech of the third palace master, the numerous disciples of the heavenly sacred palace and the heavenly saints of Heavenly Saint Mountain shuddered once more. In the entire heavenly sacred palace, there was only one person who could be addressed as Mu by the third palace master. Could it be that our second palace master, Mu Yao, is also here? In the past, the two great palace masters have never openly competed for apprentices. Could it be that this time, the two of them will compete for Yichun and Jiang Yao together? Heavenly Saint Luo Dian, the Shatua Mountain Five Elders, plus the third palace master, if one more second palace master joins. This is simply the strongest group from our heavenly sacred palace coming forward to recruit Yichun and Jiang Yao. All the disciples of the heavenly sacred palace and the heavenly saints looked towards the void where the skyscraper palace master was staring, and at that moment, something that excited the palace disciples immensely happened. Three figures walked out from the void with faint smiles. The three figures, one elder and two juniors, led by an elder dressed in a pale blue robe, vigorous and hale, was none other than the second palace master of the heavenly sacred palace, Mu Yao. Ha ha, Yichun and Jiang Yao, These two young ones were specifically chosen by my granddaughter Qing. I, Muyao, will not miss out. Take them as apprentices? If the two young ones are willing, of course, I want to take them. Palace Master Muyao said with a laugh, his voice ringing out. Chapter 358. The number 1 strongest, Yuan Li. The Muyao Palace Master has arrived as well. The Muyao Palace Master also made a personal appearance. The numerous old disciples and heavenly saints of the heavenly sacred palace couldn't have imagined that this assessment for new disciples would not only incite a fierce competition among powerful mid-stage heavenly saint realm experts for apprentices, but it would also draw the simultaneous attention of 2 late-stage palace masters of the heavenly saint realm. Grandpa! Seeing the Muyao Palace Master appear, Mu Qingqing giggled and flew toward him. Young friend Yichun, young friend Zhang Yao. The Muyao Palace Master, holding Mu Qingqing and accompanied by his own disciples, stepped through the void and approached Yichun and Zhang Yao's side. He took his place beside those who wished to take Yichun and Zhang Yao as disciples, like Heavenly Saint Luo Dian, the 5 elders of Snake Tuo Mountain, and the Skyscraper Palace Master. With the presence of the 2 Palace Masters, the expressions of Heavenly Saint Luo Dian and the 5 elders of Snake Tuo Mountain altered. After all, their chances of competing with 2 Palace Masters for disciples were very slim. Since Palace Masters were personally extending offers to take disciples, it was feared that not many of the Heavenly Sacred Palace disciples would refuse, even if they were superior among the mid-stage Heavenly Saint Realm experts. But compared to the 2 Palace Masters, they were not on the same level. It seems that this time, these 2 exceptional talents, Yichun and Zhang Yao, are going to become the disciples of Palace Masters. Heavenly Saint Luo Dian and the 5 elders of Snake Tuo Mountain sighed inwardly. While they were sighing, the Skyscraper Palace Master and Muyao Palace Master were watching Yichun and Zhang Yao with faint smiles, waiting for the 2 to make their choice. The rest of the onlooking old disciples and heavenly saints were also all gazing at Yichun and Zhang Yao, eager to see how the 2 would choose when both Palace Masters had extended offers to take them as disciples.
Respected Seigneur.
Yichun and Zhang Yao hadn't expected that even the 2 great Palace Masters of the Heavenly Sacred Palace would want to take them as disciples. However, just like their previous thoughts, even with these 2 Palace Masters extending invitations, they still had no intention of taking a master. Given how things had unfolded, it was no longer appropriate for Yichun and Zhang Yao to hesitate. We're honored that you hold us in such high regard, Senior. Zhang Yao and I came to the Heavenly Sacred Palace solely to cultivate, and we do not have the intention of taking a master. We ask for your understanding, respected seniors, said Yichun. Zhang Yao also nodded, adding, sorry, respected seniors. The words of Yichun and Zhang Yao left all the onlooking old disciples of the Heavenly Sacred Palace and the heavenly saints of the Heavenly Saint Mountain utterly shocked, their mouths gaping in surprise. They had never considered that Yichun and Zhang Yao, this young duo, would actually refuse to take a master. If it had been just Heavenly Saint Luo Dian and the 5 elders of Snake Tuo Mountain offering apprenticeship, their refusal might have been understandable. But now, 2 great Palace Masters were extending invitations. These 2 great Palace Masters were late-stage existences within the Heavenly Saint Realm, among the highest echelons of the entire barbaric wilderness continent. To become disciples of such figures was a wish that countless warriors sought but could not achieve. Yet Yichun and Zhang Yao were refusing. This was completely unexpected to everyone. Not only was this unforeseen by the spectating crowd, but even Heavenly Saint Luo Dian and the 5 elders of Snake Tuo Mountain, as well as the 2 Palace Masters, had not anticipated it. I had thought that if I couldn't take them as disciples, they would at least become apprentices under the 2 Palace Masters. But to think, even with the Palace Masters interceding, they would still be unwilling to take a master. These 2 young ones are really so confident that they intend to cultivate on their own without relying on the Palace Masters? Heavenly Saint Luo Dian and the 5 elders of Snake Tuo Mountain were both inwardly shaking with shock. The Skyscraper Palace Master and Muyao Palace Master couldn't help but take a few more glances at Yichun and Zhang Yao, with the Skyscraper Palace Master even speaking up again. Young friends, are you really not considering apprenticeship? If you join my tutelage, With your talents and my guidance, I can guarantee that you'll reach the mid-stage of the heavenly saint realm, or even achieve the latter stage like me. The skyscraper palace master spoke with unmatched confidence. As one of the three great palace masters of the heavenly sacred palace and a late-stage powerhouse of the heavenly saint realm, who highly valued the talents of Yi Chun and Zhang Yao, the skyscraper palace master certainly had the confidence to make such a statement. However, despite the skyscraper palace master's renewed entreaty, Yi Chun and Zhang Yao still shook their heads and politely refused. This caused the skyscraper palace master's expression to turn somewhat unpleasant. Grandfather. At this moment, Mu Qingqing shook the arms of Mu Yao palace master repeatedly. Mu Yao palace master looked at his granddaughter, then smiled at Yi Chun and Zhang Yao. Since the two young friends don't wish to take on a master, we certainly can't force you. However, new disciples who have made it to the third level of the Holy Temple Tower, even if they don't take a master, will still receive the heavenly sacred reward. So, here are 2 heavenly sacred palace law tokens worth 5,000,000 points for the 2 of you. As he spoke, Mu Yao palace master flicked his finger and 2 law tokens shot towards Yi Chun and Zhang Yao. Heavenly sacred palace law tokens worth 500,000 points. Hearing the reward Mu Yao palace master had given to Yi Chun and Zhang Yao, countless senior disciples of the heavenly sacred palace were astonished. The points on the heavenly sacred palace law tokens can be exchanged for countless items at the heavenly sacred palace, information on cultivation, and even opportunities for adventures on other continents. 100,000-point law tokens are something that even the mighty first-rank disciples of the temple would need to save up for several years. Yi Chun and Zhang Yao have received such a generous reward from the second palace master directly. Many senior disciples were filled with envy and astonishment. This wave of astonishment made Yi Chun and Zhang Yao's awkwardness for refusing to take a master dissipate quite a bit. Ha ha, Yi Chun and Zhang Yao are so young. Yet they've achieved so much, it's understandable why they would choose not to take a master. Heavenly Saint Luo Dian, the first to propose taking the 2 as apprentices, said with a laugh. Since we don't have the destiny to be master and disciple, I hope the 2 young friends will not refuse my reward either. I once obtained a set of cultivation techniques on the Heavens continent that are greatly beneficial to martial artists at the Coiling Pill realm. I'll give it to you too. As soon as Heavenly Saint Luo Dian took action, the elders of Snake to a Mountain could not hold back any longer. They valued Yi Chun and Zhang Yao for their otherworldly talents. While they were somewhat regretful for not being able to take them as disciples, they were more than willing to help the 2 in any way they could. We 5 old folks have some materials for refining weapons that we can no longer use, so we'll give them to you 2 young friends. The elders of Snake to a Mountain said as well. Although they claimed these materials were something they could no longer use, considering their stature, just beneath the 3 great palace masters and among the most respected elders, their humility was simply a turn of phrase. When the elders of Snake to a Mountain brought out those shining materials, even the many mid-stage beings of the heavenly saint realm gasped. In the end, it was not just the elders of Snake to a Mountain who conferred rewards. The skyscraper palace master also presented 2 treasures to Yi Chun and Zhang Yao. Other saints who had earlier desired to befriend Yi Chun and Zhang Yao, but had not spoken out at the time due to the circumstances, now saw the esteemed figures bestowing rewards. One by one, they surged towards Yi Chun and Zhang Yao, each offering some of their items and sharing laughter with them. While countless individuals were conversing with Yi Chun and Zhang Yao, and while the presence of the 2 great palace masters had drawn numerous heavenly saints to their sides, Yi Chun, Zhang Yao, and Lu Qingmei, who stood in the new disciple area, heard a voice simultaneously. Yi Chun, Zhang Yao, Lu Qingmei. After the initiation of new disciples is over, come together to the heavenly Saint Mountain's Heaven's Question Hall. As this voice resounded, Yi Chun, Zhang Yao, and Lu Qingmei simultaneously saw a figure emerge in the void, looking towards them. This figure, dressed in bright yellow robes with a faint blue divine rune imprint on her forehead, was seated in the air, smiling gently at Yi Chun, Zhang Yao, and Lu Qingmei. When this figure appeared, all others in the area failed to notice her presence. Even the 2 great palace masters of the heavenly sacred palace, Muyao Palace Master and Skyscraper Palace Master, did not perceive her, continuing their conversations with other heavenly saints. Upon witnessing this scene, Yi Chun, Jiang Yao, and Lu Qingmei's hearts skipped a beat. To reveal herself before the two great palace masters without being detected, such strength immediately made them think of one person. This was none other than the greatest presence within the heavenly sacred palace, the true first among the three great palace masters, Palace Master Yuan Li. Chapter 359. The Three Great Secret Lands. 3 days later, inside an immensely vast manor, in the cultivation room, Yi Chun was seated cross-legged. The place where Yi Chun was now residing was the exclusive dwelling of the disciples of the First Holy Temple. After arriving at this dwelling, Yi Chun felt even more the profound foundation of the heavenly sacred palace. From the outside, every disciple of the First Holy Temple was only assigned a small residence, but once one truly entered this residence, they would find that hidden within was a space governed by the laws of space, a manor of immense proportions. Within the manor, not only was there a garden overgrown with spiritual herbs and trees, a main hall for receiving guests, but also a library stocked with books and a cultivation room for practice, all that one could wish for. The dwelling of every disciple of the First Holy Temple was actually a space manor cultivated by heavenly saint realm powerhouses using the laws of space. A grand gesture. This was definitely a real grand gesture. One should know that only those strong in the early stages of the heavenly saint realm had the power to refine such external spaces. Early-stage heavenly saint realm powerhouses in other sects were almost always supreme powerhouses, and the external spaces they refined were generally for their own use. To say that one would find a heavenly saint to refine space manners for disciples of lower realms, only a place like the heavenly sacred palace, with a great number of heavenly saints, could achieve such a feat. However, Yi Chun had also come to understand that such treatment was only available to the disciples of the First Holy Temple of the Heavenly Sacred Palace. The disciples of the Second Holy Temple up to the Fifth Holy Temple could only live in ordinary dwellings. Sitting cross-legged in the cultivation room, and after activating the room's protective restrictions, Yi Chun first recalled the events of the past 3 days. 3 days ago, after he and Jiang Yao challenged the Holy Temple Tower, it attracted the attention of numerous heavenly saints for apprenticeship and rewards, especially the events involving the Muyao Palace Master and the Skyscraper Palace Master, which, in retrospect, filled Yi Chun with some emotions. But these emotions were nothing compared to what Yi Chun encountered later. The source of the later events was the yellow-robed woman who last appeared outside the Holy Temple Tower. When Yi Chun, Jiang Yao, and Lu Qingmei truly arrived at the Heavenly Saint Mountain Heaven's Question Hall, as mentioned by the yellow-robed woman, and met her again, the three of them definitively knew that this woman was indeed the #1 powerhouse of the entire Heavenly Sacred Palace, Palace Master Yuan Li. Being personally requested for an audience by Palace Master Yuan Li, Yi Chun and his companions were of course incredibly surprised. But when Palace Master Yuan Li took the three of them to a hidden lake in the deepest part of the Heavenly Saint Mountain, and they met another great figure, Yi Chun and his companions were not just surprised anymore. They were completely astonished, because they saw in that lake a real true spirit sacred beast. A phoenix. Furthermore, according to Palace Master Yuan Li, this true phoenix senior was a being that transcended the heavenly saint realm, an exalted void sky true god. Void sky true god. Yi Chun had never imagined that the barbaric wilderness continent would have a void sky true god. You should know, the barbaric wilderness continent is one of the 33 lower realms of the minor spirit realm, and such lower realms generally cannot give birth to a void sky true god. Moreover, due to the repulsion of the continental power of the lower realms, it is very difficult for a void sky true god to stay in the lower realms normally. To suddenly see a true spirit sacred beast of a void sky true god in the secretive place of the heavenly sacred palace, of course, left Yi Chun, Jiang Yao, and Lu Qingmei utterly disbelieving. And what stunned Yi Chun and Jiang Yao even more was that when they first laid eyes on this great void sky true god, the divine phoenix, a cacophony of thunder exploded in the minds of Yi Chun and Jiang Yao. Because the appearance of this true spirit sacred beast phoenix was exactly the same as the phoenix Yi Chun and Jiang Yao saw through the azure crystal in the azure blue mansion, the one that took the infant Jiang Yao and flew away from the divine phoenix city. was the phoenix that took Zhang Yao and fled the divine phoenix city to avoid the war of the three divine clans, and came to the barbaric wilderness continent, still there? Was it within the heavenly sacred palace? Yi Chun and Zhang Yao couldn't believe it. In their incredulous gaze, the phoenix transformed directly into a woman's figure, walking out of the lake. She walked towards Zhang Yao while calling out softly with tears streaming down her face, "Princess Yao!" At that moment, Zhang Yao's face was streamed with tears. At that moment, Yi Chun also knew that this Void Sky True God Senior was indeed the phoenix that departed from Divine Phoenix City. The following day, True Phoenix Senior spent the entire time with Zhang Yao, sharing with her the events of the past decade. Through Palace Master Yuan Li, Yi Chun and Lu Qingmei eventually learned a lot about True Phoenix Senior, understanding why True Phoenix Senior had called the three of them here. True Phoenix brought Yi Chun here because of the close relationship between Yi Chun and Zhang Yao. She also wanted to see Yi Chun. And the reason True Phoenix had asked Lu Qingmei to come here was precisely because of the secret techniques related to the Divine Phoenix clan that Lu Qingmei had displayed. On the second day, True Phoenix personally inquired, and Lu Qingmei informed him of everything she knew and produced an item given to her by the woman who had taught her the techniques. Upon seeing this item, True Phoenix immediately confirmed that the woman, who had visited Lu Qingmei's family in the Polar Star Archipelago 10 years ago and taught her the techniques, was indeed a member of the Divine Phoenix clan. Lu Qingmei said that her aunt had already been injured when she had come to her family. True Phoenix had a premonition that the woman likely suffered the same type of injury as she had when descending from the minor spirit realm to the barbaric wilderness continent, a backlash from the force of the lower realm. And it was highly probable that this woman was a Void Sky True God. Thinking that another Void Sky True God from the Divine Phoenix clan had descended to the lower realm, True Phoenix, Zhang Yao, and Yi Chun all understood that this woman must have come in search of Zhang Yao. With this in mind, True Phoenix had Palace Master Yuan Li take Lu Qingmei and Zhang Yao, along with a wisp of her own divine spirit, to head directly to the eastern part of the Polar Star Archipelago to personally meet the woman. No matter the reason for the woman's descent to the lower realm, with Palace Master Yuan Li overseeing Zhang Yao and True Phoenix's divine spirit wisp constantly observing everything, ready to traverse the heavens with a thought and reach there by harnessing her divine spirit, their journey to the Polar Star Archipelago would be safe from danger. Once they confirmed that the woman had indeed come in search of Zhang Yao, True Phoenix would find a way to heal the woman's injuries and learn about the current situation of the Divine Phoenix clan from her, making more arrangements for Zhang Yao. On the third day, unbeknownst to everyone, Palace Master Yuan Li had already taken Zhang Yao and Lu Qingmei toward the Polar Star Archipelago in the eastern part of the barbaric wilderness continent. Yi Chun did not go to the Polar Star Archipelago because, on the one hand, it was a matter concerning the Divine Phoenix clan, and he should not get involved before things were certain. On the other hand, it was because Palace Master Yuan Li had discussed another matter with Yi Chun. That matter was that, in some time, Heavenly Sacred Palace and 32 other continents would launch 3 grand expeditions. Palace Master Yuan Li emphasized that Zhang Yao had the bloodline of the Divine Phoenix clan and receiving personal instruction from True Phoenix was naturally the best fit, but it was different for Yi Chun, who could not practice the techniques of the Divine Phoenix clan. Therefore, Yi Chun still needed to find his own cultivation opportunity. The 3 grand expeditions undertaken jointly by the 33 continents are an incredible opportunity and formidable challenge for the most outstanding disciples of each land. Amid life and death lies great terror, but also great opportunity. These 3 grand expeditions are to explore regions even we, the most formidable amongst all 33 continents including myself, have yet to fully understand, and the danger is immense. Precisely because it's immensely dangerous, and precisely because even we, in the late stage of the Heavenly Saint realm, haven't completely grasped it, the opportunities it holds are the most plentiful. Yi Chun recalled Palace Master Yuan Li's words. Palace Master Yuan Li went on to say to Yi Chun, "Yi Chun, if you want to become powerful and reach heights others can't, merely cultivating in the sect and not facing life and death trials won't do. Sect cultivation merely lays the foundation. Perpetual growth within the sect will render you vulnerable to the slightest storm. Only through genuine life and death ordeals can one undergo a transformation in essence. The three grand expeditions of the 33 United Continents are exactly where the most outstanding talents can undergo such a transformation. Palace Master Yuan Li also said that these three expeditions were entirely distinct from each other. The three expeditions are the Void Abyss Expedition, the Elemental Mountains Expedition, and the Ancient Royal Tombland Expedition. By the scale of danger, the Void Abyss Expedition could be classified as difficult level, the Elemental Mountains Expedition as dangerous level, while the Ancient Royal Tombland Expedition truly belonged to the ultimate realm level. And the more dangerous the place, the greater the opportunity. At the difficult level of the Void Abyss, the opportunities encountered are random and useful both for practitioners in the rotating pill realm and the heavenly saint realm. Meanwhile, the dangerous level of the Elemental Mountains Expedition is specifically suited for those who aim to comprehend the five void heavenly principles and allows one to grasp all five principles simultaneously. According to the rules of the 33 continents, only practitioners of the rotating pill realm with 5 apertures and those in the heavenly saint realm may enter. Their rotating pill realm practitioners could try to cultivate all 5 void heavenly principles to completion simultaneously, striving for ascension to the heavenly saint realm, whereas heavenly saint realm practitioners could complete any unmastered void heavenly principles, ultimately reaching full mastery of all 5 and achieving the strongest power of the 5 void heavenly principles, jointly comprehending the spatial principle. As for the ultimate realm-level Ancient Royal Tombland Expedition, it is both the most dangerous and the most enigmatic. According to the late-stage Heavenly Saint Realm experts from the topmost realms of the 33 continents, including Palace Master Yuan Li, this location is where countless void sky true gods from the minor spirit realm, either on the brink of death or already perished, find their final resting place. The Ancient Royal Tombland is truly a true god cemetery. The true God Cemetery, as one can imagine, is a place of both mystique and value. This place even has a guardian, a powerful void sky true god standing guard outside the cemetery. This guardian only opens the Ancient Royal Tombland Expedition at specific times, and there are particular requirements for the number and strength of the people entering. The True God Cemetery Ancient Royal Tombland allows only 1,000 people to enter at a time, and it requires that all 1,000 possess Heavenly Saint-level combat capabilities. Chapter 360 Must Kill. The Ancient Royal Tombland has been opened dozens of times, and within these openings, out of every 1,000 who enter, at most only 10 people can come out alive. Out of 1,000, at most only 10 could survive, and there were even many occasions when not a single person made it out alive. Among the dead, there were even many who were in the late stages of the Heavenly Saint realm, which is why this expedition is called an ultimate realm-level exploration. However dangerous it may be, the 1,000 spots available for entering the Ancient Royal Tombland still sparked a craze among countless people across the 33 continents. Only individuals like Palace Master Yuan Li, who are among the very top figures of all the continents, have the credentials to ultimately arrange entries to the Ancient Royal Tombland, because everyone who comes out of the Ancient Royal Tombland achieves greatness. All those who have entered and survived the True God Cemetery Ancient Royal Tombland find their essence, chi, and spirit, the 3 great signs of life, activated by divine light, which has an incredibly beneficial effect on cultivation, even transforming the mortal bodies of the lower realm to resemble the divine bodies of the god clans of the upper realm. There are even those who have broken through the extremely difficult bottleneck from the Heavenly Saint realm to the Void Sky True God realm, and ultimately, in the Ancient Royal Tombland, they become new Void Sky True Gods and eventually step into the Minor Spirit realm, becoming a powerhouse of their generation. The mere chance to become a Void Sky True God is enough to set off a fierce competition among the countless Heavenly Saint powerhouses of the 33 continents of the lower realm. Even if one cannot break through to the bottleneck leading to the Void Sky True God realm, there are still many who, within the True God Cemetery, acquire True God weapons, True God skills, and even True God inheritances, which skyrocket their combat powers to inconceivable levels. It could be said that this True God Cemetery Ancient Royal Tombland is the first place of opportunity, the most dangerous place, and also the most mysterious place in the 33 continents of the lower realm. Even though Yi Chun has gained countless opportunities, upon hearing that this True God Cemetery Ancient Royal Tombland expedition was related to the Void Sky True Gods, he too was tempted. However, Palace Master Yuan Li told Yi Chun that among these 3 great expeditions, the ancient royal tombland, being the ultimate realm-level challenge, was not yet suitable for him. She would arrange for Yi Chun to participate once he had grown more powerful. For now, Palace Master Yuan Li was only letting Yi Chun choose between the first 2 of the 3 great expeditions, Void Abyss Exploration and 5 Elements Mountain Exploration.
Yi Chun understood.
Even though he was now incredibly powerful, having combat power comparable to that of slightly weaker early-stage heavenly saints while only at the initial stage of the rotating pill realm himself, he was still too far from meeting the requirements to enter the ancient royal tombland of the True God Cemetery. After all, the ancient royal tombland was a place where even late-stage heavenly saint powerhouses might perish. As Yi Chun wasn't yet able to completely overpower even the early-stage heavenly saints, entering it would have given him very little chance of survival. As Palace Master Yuan Li said, only when Yi Chun has the strength comparable to a mid-stage heavenly saint might she consider allowing him to attempt entering it. Since Yi Chun was temporarily unable to enter the ancient royal tombland, he turned his attention to the other 2 major expeditions, Void Abyss Exploration and 5 Elements Mountain Exploration. Ultimately, Yi Chun decided to attempt the 5 Elements Mountain Exploration. After all, according to the rules for the 3 great expeditions, they were conducted simultaneously, and one could only choose one among them. With ancient royal tombland exploration currently beyond his reach, and although Void Abyss Exploration was somewhat safer compared to 5 Elements Mountain Exploration, the opportunities it offered were significantly less. In 5 Elements Mountain Exploration, only those who were rotating pill powerhouses with 5 apertures could enter, and the 5 Elements Mountain was extremely conducive to the cultivation of the 5 great heavenly void laws. Yi Chun's current cultivation of the internal skill Taiyuan True Pill and the external disciplines of the gold, wood, water, fire, and earth 5 great divine arts were all related to the 5 great heavenly void laws. Venture in the 5 Elements Mountain Exploration, and his powers might leap forward significantly. Having determined to join the 5 Elements Mountain Exploration, Yi Chun naturally made thorough preparations for the expedition. After all, the 5 Elements Mountain Exploration was an event in which only the very powerful rotating pill realm and heavenly saint realm powerhouses of the 33 continents were eligible to participate. Yi Chun had to guard not only against the inherent perils of the 5 Elements Mountain itself but also against other adventurers. Palace Master Yuan Li mentioned that it was a little more than a month until the 5 Elements Mountain Exploration would take place, and Yi Chun planned to use this time to further enhance his strength and better prepare for the expedition. Having made his decision, Palace Master Yuan Li took Zhang Yao and Lu Qingmei to the eastern Polar Star Archipelago, while Yi Chun began his pre-expedition cultivation. On the 3rd day after entering the Heavenly Sacred Palace, Yi Chun went straight to the treasure pavilion of the Holy Palace, searching for 5 elements secret treasures that could aid in the cultivation of his 5 great divine arts. The 5 great divine arts, derived from the 3rd chapter of the primordial star scripture, the Taiyuan chapter, included the gold element divine art, golden light divine slash, the wood attribute divine art, wood emperor stacking skill, the water element divine art, heavenly origin divine water, the fire element divine art, heaven devouring true fire, and the earth element divine art, earth returning to origin art. All could be enhanced in power through the 5 elements secret treasures. Ultimately, Yi Chun spent 300,000 points of the Holy Palace law card that Palace Master Mu Yao had gifted him to exchange for 2 precious 5 elements secret treasures from the treasure pavilion of the Heavenly Sacred Palace. A cluster of Saint-grade inferior true fire, little blue flame true fire, and a bag of Saint-grade inferior true earth, 9 spirits treasure soil. Although he only exchanged for these 2 5 elements secret treasures, Yi Chun was greatly delighted. According to what the heavenly saint guarding the treasure pavilion said, these 5 elements secret treasures were extremely popular in the Holy Palace. Generally, as soon as they were discovered, they were exchanged by heavenly saint powerhouses and rarely retained. For Yi Chun to exchange 2 types of 5 elements secret treasures at once, although only of inferior saint grade, was already quite fortunate. With these 2 treasures, Yi Chun could greatly enhance the fire and earth arts among the 5 great divine arts, specifically the heaven-devouring true fire and the earth-returning to origin art. Currently able to fight only somewhat weaker early-stage heavenly saints. After refining these 2 5-elements secret treasures, Yi Chun felt he might be able to handle an average early-stage heavenly saint. At this moment, Yi Chun, seated in the cultivation room of the living estates for the disciples of the First Holy Temple, was preparing to refine and consume these 2 treasures. After reflecting on all that had happened in the past 3 days, Yi Chun turned his attention inward, ready to begin cultivating the fire and earth divine arts of the 5 great divine arts. Whoosh! Whoosh! Yi Chun, seated cross-legged, gave his sleeves a shake, and 2 items flew out from within them. These 2 items were a small white jade box and a small gray pouch. Yi Chun's divine sense first swept over the white jade box that landed on the ground. The lid of the box flew open, and a cluster of blue flames, whooshing like a living creature, flew out of the box and attempted to escape the cultivation room. This cluster of blue flames was none other than the Saint Grade Inferior True Fire, known as Little Blue Flame True Fire. The Little Blue Flame True Fire possessed the destructive power of an early-stage heavenly saint and a unique innate trait of soul burning, said to naturally suppress ghostly and demonic creatures. With the destructive power of an early-stage heavenly saint, this Saint-grade True Fire far surpassed Heaven-grade True Fire in might. Even rotating pill realm experts who deeply comprehended the fire element heavenly void laws dared not touch such fire. Yet, Yi Chun simply opened his mouth and inhaled the fleeing flames. As the 8-5 apertures rotating pills in Yi Chun's Qi-Si trembled slightly, the escaping little blue flame True Fire was sucked into his mouth and eventually entered his Qi-Si. Now, the Taiyuan chapter that Yi Chun cultivated included the wood attribute divine art within the 5 great divine arts. This heaven-devouring true fire could engulf all heaven and earth true fire, allowing the endless might of heaven and earth true fire to fuse into the heaven-devouring true fire. Not to mention this early-stage saint-grade little blue flame true fire. Even if it were a superior-grade saint-level true fire, Yi Chun would dare to consume it. After little blue flame true fire was ingested into the Qi-Si, Yi Chun began the complete refinement of the cluster of true fire. Yi Chun sat cross-legged in the cultivation room of his residence within the First Holy Temple, deep in cultivation. In another residence within the First Holy Temple, 2 individuals were communicating through divine sense, engaging in a secret discussion. One of them was Inchenjue, the top cultivator of the 10 demon sects of the Western Wilderness studying in the Heavenly Sacred Palace, and the other was his close friend from the early stages of the Heavenly Saint Realm, Feng Luan. Qianju, you've seen for yourself the strength of Yi Chun and Jiang Yao. They're not far off from mine, and they are highly regarded by so many powerful figures, Feng Luan said, frowning at Inchenjue. To kill them? If we succeed, that's one thing, but if we fail, I absolutely cannot stay in the Heavenly Sacred Palace. It might even provoke the ire of the 2 palace masters, leading to our direct execution. With your and my relationship, I can help with other matters, but to kill them is difficult for me, Feng Luan told Inchenjue with a frown. Inchenjue's expression was also gloomy. He understood what Feng Luan was saying. But after seeing Yi Chun and Jiang Yao's performance during their challenges in the Holy Temple Tower, as well as the rewards and recognition from the various heavenly saints afterward, Inchenjue harbored a killing intent towards them. Yi Chun and Jiang Yao must be killed. Otherwise, these 2 would undoubtedly become the nightmare of the 10 demon sects of the Western Wilderness. Brother Feng Luan, I know this is a difficult task, especially killing 2 heaven's chosen individuals, Inchenjue said. But as you know, there is a blood feud between the Western Wilderness and the Southern Territory, and I absolutely cannot allow them to grow stronger. If I could kill them myself, I would. But as it stands, I am no match for them anymore and can only rely on you, Brother Feng Luan. Although they are heaven's chosen and valued by the strong powers, they still fall short before you, Brother Feng Luan. As long as you are willing to take action and find the opportunity, it is certain you can kill them. Even if we can kill just one of them, you must help me, Brother Feng Luan, no matter the cost. I am willing to pay it. Yin Qianjue said through gritted teeth. Hearing Yin Qianjue's words, Feng Luan's expression fluctuated continuously. In the end, he looked directly into Yin Qianjue's eyes and asked, Qianju, are you truly willing to pay any price? Seeing Yin Qianjue nod solemnly, Feng Luan's gaze shifted outside the secret chamber, his eyes shining with a gleam of determination. I, Feng Luan, have been cultivating in the heavenly sacred palace for hundreds of years and have been at the early stages of the heavenly saint realm for hundreds as well. Even though I am almost unbeatable in the early stages of the heavenly saint realm, I have yet to break through to the mid-stage heavenly saint realm, Feng Luan said. Qianju, during your last exploration of the Void Abyss secret land, you obtained a wondrous object, the heavenly wood divine flower. If you are willing to give that heavenly wood divine flower to me, despite the risks of attempting to kill Yi-chan and Jiang Yao, I am willing to do it. So, Qianju, are you willing to offer that heavenly wood divine flower as my reward for helping you kill Yi-chan and Jiang Yao? Feng Luan asked deliberately.